cheeseburgers.
Due to how popular Sonic was at the time, he would get a few TV shows made about him that all range in various quality. I will be going over all the Dick cartoons, the OVA movie, and Sonic X. I'll go over the rest of the shows later down the line in the series. I have heard many things about these cartoons, good and bad, but we'll see if any of these shows are actually good. But before we get started, I do want to say thank you to all the people that have watched my last video and the people who subscribed to me. It means a lot to me that you guys are willing to give me a chance and watch my stupid little video. I will be trying to have a more consistent schedule from here on out. We're trying to get at least one video out per month. Life does get in the way sometimes, but I'll still do my best to get these videos out a lot more frequently. But for now, let's get into the Dick cartoons. Dick will create 3 different Sonic cartoons for 3 different networks, and they all have different tones and styles. The first one we'll go over is The Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog. This show is a more lighthearted series, similar to Looney Tunes. My only knowledge of the show is that it was commonly used in YouTube poofs, as the series was really bad but had a lot of weird moments throughout the show that everyone loved and turned into a meme. When I was preparing for the show, I discovered there were 65 episodes and a Christmas special made for this show, and at first I thought the episodes were only 11 minutes long, but nope, it turns out they are 22 minutes long. When put all together, that means I had to sit for at least 24 hours of annoying jokes and Scratch and Grounder getting beat up for the 15 billionth time. This was absolute hell to get through, which sucked because there are a few good episodes that are surrounded by forgettable, boring episodes. If they would have only done on most 30 episodes, I would appreciate the series a lot more if I'd have to hear "I'm waiting" for the 100th time. The show's animation is pretty decent for the time. A lot of the background art looks inspired by the Ren and Stimpy style of abstract art as backgrounds. The animation is decently fluid, but the timing is pretty bad. I had the series on 1.5 speed when I was watching it, which gave the illusion that the timing was good, when in reality it was just slightly delayed and it hurt the slapstick comedy a lot. But overall, it was a decently animated show for the time. It could have been definitely better though. The basic plot is just simply Eggman sets up a plan and sends out Scratch and Grounder to execute it, just for Sonic to beat up Scratch and Grounder and stop his plans. Now just extend that to 22 minutes or repeat that 65 times and that's the entirety of the show. They do mix things up every once in a while, but it means nothing compared to the wave of generic ass episodes that come from the show. I will go over all the episodes in the show, but I'll probably only spend like 30 seconds on most since there isn't really much to talk about in some of these episodes. Most of these episodes are just animated noise and I can only say the same thing so many times, but let's not delay it anymore and get started. The story for this one's pretty simple. Eggman sends out a squad of bounty hunters to capture Sonic, but when they fail, he creates Scratch and Grounder so they can hunt down Sonic themselves. And that's about it. The only fun part of the episodes is Eggman, since his delivery is always great and he gives the best jokes in all these episodes.
I hate that hedgehog! He ruins my schemes!
I do know he's just called Robotnik in this, but Eggman's easier to say, so I'll stick with that. Besides that, everything else is either fine or bad. The overuse a lot of sound effects, 80% of the characters have really annoying voices, and there's just a lot of slapstick. And these are a lot of Looney Tunes jokes, mostly just the disguised one, which they do in almost every episode. Sonic himself is okay. They characterize him as an impatient teenager, which works for most of the time. They also added a trait of him liking chili dogs, which will become a main staple of his character from here on out. He's also voiced by Jahal White, the guy who played Urkel from Family Matters, and I can never get that out of my head when I hear him talk. Tails himself is fine, he's just a child character and is inoffensive. He's not bad, but there's not much to him. Scratch and Grounder on the other hand are pretty great. They can definitely get annoying at times, but I don't know, they have a certain charm to how dumb they can be.
Does this mean the hedgehog doesn't think we're charming, handsome, and intelligent?
Overall, the cast is pretty decent, but not so much for the plot. I only focus on the characters for this one since the plot itself is pretty boring. The plot just happens, and they repeat the same structure many times. But this episode in particular is just fine. It sets up the show and does the job, not much else you can ask for. The only other thing to talk about is the Sonic Says section. At the end of each episode, Sonic gives useful information to kids that they can use in their own lives. It's done really well, only 2 of them stick out for the topic in which we'll get to later, but they're still pretty good and the info they tell is really important, like remembering your phone number and calling 911 when you need help. But that's all for this episode. From here on out, I'll probably have barely anything to say about a chunk of these episodes, so bear with me. Sonic attempts to escape a mine, but is captured by a Mo who's a grumpy bitch.
Nope, don't say no, never mind the current events.
Maybe you should consider a career in politics.
After Eggman attacks his mind, Sonic's able to convince him to join forces and stop Eggman. This was a pretty boring episode. Only a few jokes caught me off guard.
Turn off that light! Can't you see I'm brooding? Oh yeah, sorry.
I will say that they reuse this idea a lot. Sonic meets a random character, shenanigans happen, and ends up with them teaming up and stopping Eggman. They reuse this idea for like half the series and it just gets tiring. That's all I have to say for this one. Let's move on. Sonic meets a girl and begins to fawn over her and becomes a simp.
Chili dogs, my favorite food.
Hey, mine too. Would you like to stay for lunch?
But Tail finds out that the girl is actually a robot spy sent by Eggman to distract Sonic so Eggman can execute his plan in peace. For some reason they also decided to show off Eggman's feet. They begin to show this stuff a lot more, so get ready to see more as we go on. Eventually the girl has to change of heart and save Sonic. It's a fine episode. The best part of the episode was the fucking random Jamaican rat.
Okay, but remember, avoid the angry alligators.
I love this guy. The most interesting part in this episode though is the Sonic Says section, in which I'll just let it play for itself.
Kids, there's nothing more cool than being hugged by someone you like. But if someone tries to touch you in a place or in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's no good.
This one clip will become so infamous that it'll be used in so many memes and YouTube poops. It is important information that kids need to know, but just so weird how it's delivered that it comes out unintentionally funny. But besides that, there's nothing else to talk about in this episode, so let's move on. Sonic helps out a family of sloths rebuild their house, in which they make a lot of sloth jokes.
Now that's fast.
This shit got old real quick. Eggman shows up with his gun that's able to make things go slow and uses it to slow down Sonic. But Tails is able to get a gun from Eggman and use it to make the sloths go fast so they can rescue Sonic.
Now let's check the notes.
This was the most annoying episode yet. It does have a decent setup, but dear god, those sloth jokes get annoying real fast. Sonic helps a bunch of sheep get out of debt from a casino, but when things go wrong and Tails gets captured, Sonic is forced to decide between saving Tails or the sheep. It was a surprisingly okay episode, except for this part.
How dare you interrupt me now?
This is such a haunting image. But yeah, the episode was pretty good. Had a few good jokes in it, it has some stake to it. I wish most of the episodes were like this though. After a comic writer makes a comic making fun of Eggman, Eggman captures him so he can't make any more comics about him. When Sonic learns this, he goes to save him, but the only way Sonic can save him though is by letting himself get captured so he can break himself and the comic writer out. It's a fine episode. There was some decent slapstick, but that's about it. After Tails and Sonic fight, Tails quietly leaves Sonic behind and goes on his own, only to get caught by Eggman. Sonic goes to save him, but he has to deal with Dr. Robotnik, Eggman's brother. This motherfucker is so goddamn annoying.
Who will be rid of you, you egg-sucking eccentric?
This episode sucks. It has a good starting point, but once it gets to Eggman's brother, it all just goes down from there. A really shitty episode. After two aliens crash on Earth, they meet Sonic who helps them rebuild their ship. They have to do it quickly as their little brother will blow up the Earth back on their homeworld if they don't return back in time.
She's fantastically super!
This one was pretty shit. The aliens were really annoying and the episode just blends in with the other ones. Even if having aliens, this episode is still pretty generic. I'm probably gonna have the same exact opinion for a good chunk of these episodes, so get ready for that. After Eggman fails to take over the world multiple times, his mother breaks out of a nursing home and forces him to team up with her so they can finally stop Sonic. Mama Robotnik doesn't show up too much in the show, but is honestly a pretty fun character. The jokes in this one was also pretty decent. This was a pretty fun episode, even though it was mostly lifted up by Mama Robotnik's presence. Eggman uses a mind control device to control a gorilla and tells him to climb the highest mountain. He uses a laser to scare people into submission, but leads to his baby being abandoned. The baby gorilla finds Sonic and asks him to find his dad for him. Sonic agrees and helps the baby find his dad. This was a pretty mediocre episode. The only thing that was worth noting was that the word daddy is said way too many times for comfort.
Daddy!
Besides that, the episode's just fine. Eggman bans music after a song about Sonic gets popular, and when that doesn't work, he just captures the singer, and now it's up to Sonic to save her. The episode was pretty decent, nothing too crazy, but it was fun, especially when Eggman tries to make his own song.
I am a genius. I have proof.
The song itself is annoying, but it's surprisingly catchy. The song would though start randomly playing in my head, and it would just knock it out of my head for a long time. It was complete hell, but still this was a decent episode. A sleazy salesman named Weasley sells a bunch of traps that are meant to capture Sonic to Eggman, but they all fail due to Scratch and Grounder being really incompetent.
Grounder, shut it off!
The episode was okay. It was mostly a gimmick episode with a bunch of slapstick, but most of it was pretty good. Weasley is a character that will be reused plenty of times in the series. There is another character who gets the same treatment, but we'll get to him later on. But back to Weasley, he's nothing too special, honestly kind of annoying, but he's not too bad compared to other characters in the show. But let's get on to the next one. Sonic saves a guy named Lucas from Eggman and helps him reunite with his high school crush so that Lucas can confess his love to her. But Eggman wants to marry the girl himself and attempts to stop Sonic from helping Lucas. This was a surprisingly good episode. I love how they characterize Eggman as an incel.
I suppose this means marriage is completely out of the question.
Overall, a pretty good episode. Sonic attempts to stop a train filled with explosives, but has to deal with two bears that believe Scratch and Grounder are Sonic and Tails, and that Sonic and Tails are just robots. This episode fucking sucks. The plot is really dumb and the bears are just really fucking annoying. This might be the worst episode in the series yet. Hopefully it gets better than this. After Eggman screws up and makes Tails grow into a giant, he attempts to persuade the town to thinking that Tails is a monster. This is a weird episode. The episode on its own is fine, but there's a lot of fetish things in here, especially with Tails saying,
"I'm so hungry, I can't stand it."
Just all weird. And this shit will show up quite a lot in the show. It's probably the worst thing about the show, honestly. All I will say though is that this might be the road to all the weird DeviantArt pictures. Talk about Whiplash. We are now going from the weirdest episode to one of the best episodes to come from this show. The episode is about Sonic sending Tails to a new home after he gets hurt, but the new home turns out to be a trap and Sonic has to rescue Tails. The best part of the episode though is the origin of Tails. It showed that Tails was abandoned as a baby and it was Sonic who took him in and raised him. This was a great episode. I do think that was mostly lifted by Tails' origin, but even then the slapstick was pretty good and the story was decently paced. The only issue though is that this is the best episode out of the series, which is not good since we still have 50 episodes left and none of them get close to how good this episode is. It's time to move on to the next one, so let's continue. An out-of-touch hero attempts to help Sonic with stopping Eggman, but only makes things worse, which leads to Sonic telling him off. Tails visits the hero later and attempts to bring his spirit back up so they can go back to helping people. This was a pretty boring episode. It does have one decent joke though.
He's leading him right to the cliff!
That's military intelligence for you.
But besides that, it blends in with the rest of the episodes. After Scratch loses his memory, he takes on the persona of an ego superhero from the TV show he's been watching and helps Sonic stop Eggman's plans. It's another pretty boring episode. It's a decent concept, but Scratch gets really annoying to listen to and ruined the episode for me. Not the worst, but also not that good. Sonic gets his shoes stolen, and because of that he's unable to run fast at all. And the best part for some people is you get to see his feet.
My kicks! Somebody ripped off my slick kicks!
Which definitely made a DeviantArt user very happy. The episode was pretty okay, not great, but was able to execute his mystery pretty well, which made the episode a decent watch. In this one, Tails befriends a fucking black hole, really out of pocket there. Once it gets captured by Eggman, Sonic and Tails has to rescue it before Eggman can use it to his advantage. This sounds like a fun episode, but it's not. The black hole itself is really annoying. The only part I stuck out was that they said that a sandwich is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when it had fucking lettuce on it.
Here's a delicious peanut butter and jelly for the old Goopmeister.
The episode does have an interesting concept, but it completely butchers it in its execution, which leads to this episode being pretty boring. Sonic finds himself in the junkyard of all Eggman's rejects, persuades him to team up to take on Eggman. This episode is also really mediocre. I do like the idea of Eggman sending all his rejects to one location where they all come together and make their own society, but he also never really goes into it besides jokes, which all suck. I just want to say at this point all these episodes are just meshing together in my head as they're the exact same thing over and over, and it is driving me insane. Well, let's just keep on going. A fake Hedgehog goes around committing crimes and everyone blames it on Sonic. Sonic eventually finds out that it's a robot version of himself and Sonic attempts to stop him, but when Sonic gets sick and gets inflated... Jesus Christ. Tails then takes control of Mecha Sonic and uses him to stop Eggman's plan, but he gets captured and has to get rescued by Sonic. This was a pretty okay episode. I was honestly more interested in seeing how they use Mecha Sonic in this, since they don't really take too much from the actual games, and it was done really well. It all comes together to make a pretty decent episode, besides the weird inflation shit. When Eggman puts a new computer chip into Grounder that turns smart, Grounder is able to outwit Sonic, but also take control away from Eggman. So now it's up to Sonic trying to find a way to stop Grounder, who's able to guess his every move. This was a really good episode. It does remind me of that one SpongeBob episode where Patrick becomes smart. I just wanted to say that because I couldn't stop thinking about when they changed Grounder's voice.
I must apply all that I know to solve this problem.
Terribly generous of you, Doctor, but quite inadequate.
But still, this was a really great episode. It's 20 times better than what we've been getting, and it's actually able to turn Grounder into a good villain. I hope we can have more episodes like this for the rest of the show. After Sonic is frozen into stone, it's now up to Tails to outwit Scratch and Grounder so he can be able to bring Sonic back to life so they can stop Eggman. This was a fun episode. It shakes things up by letting Tails have the spotlight and it was entertaining to watch. I just wish that the rest of the episodes were like this. Eggman puts a bee and a chip into Scratch and Grounder so they listen to him better, but when the chip gets messed up, they become loyal to Sonic and help him stop Eggman. The episode was surprisingly good and funny. It was surprising how good this was since it started out pretty generic, but the jokes helped it a lot. There's even a fourth wall joke.
Scratch? When do you think we'll land?
Probably sometime in the next episode.
It was refreshing to watch as most of the jokes in the other episodes fall flat. This was a pretty good episode, but I do hope we can get more like it though. Sonic meets a merman and goes with him to help save a princess that he's in love with. Shenanigans ensue and they work together to beat Eggman. This was pretty forgettable. It didn't help that the merman was especially annoying.
We gotta save her, dude.
Just another mediocre episode though. Professor Vaughn shows them to build a dream machine that's able to make dreams come alive. Eggman wants to use the machine so he can bring his nightmares to life so he can take over Mobius. It's another okay episode that doesn't use its concept to its fullest. The most interesting thing though is this scene.
Snooping as usual, I see.
Besides that work of art, Vaughn's a pretty annoying character that returns a lot, mostly because he can create any invention that can be used to push the plot forward. He was definitely the worst part of this series.
Whoops! That's how you get rid of ketchup stains.
But once again, it's just a pretty mediocre episode. This episode sucked. Sonic and Tails gets turned into babies to have to fight Eggman, who is also turned into a baby in daycare. The fetish hits its limit in this, with Tails once again saying he's too full and can't get through the damn door.
Sonic, help! I'm stuck!
After this episode, most of the weird fetish shit goes away, most likely is someone noticing it and stopping it, because it was happening way too much. Besides that, this episode just turned into a Muppet Baby episode, and it was just annoying and forgettable. After Eggman gets tired of dealing with Scratch and Grounder, he decides to make his own son, Robotnik Jr., but after hanging out with Sonic, he goes against Eggman and stops his plans. This was an okay episode, mostly because it follows Eggman throughout most of the episode, in which he's always the highlight of the show. I will say the kid was getting a bit annoying, but it wasn't too bad. Just another forgettable episode, once again. Tails slips on a piece of gum that was made by Eggman that was making him fast as Sonic, but due to him not knowing how to control his speed, it causes a bunch of problems. It's a pretty decent episode, but my only issue is that they really don't go into the concept that much. Tails fucks up and never really gets a chance to redeem himself, but that's just a nitpick. The best thing about this episode though is the Sonic Says segment. Tails is smoking a cigarette, which is just so weird to see, but also really funny. Eggman uses a mind control device to force Mac Hopper, a kangaroo hunter, into capturing Sonic. Sonic now has to find a way to stop Mac Hopper and free him from the mind control device. The kangaroo is just a MacGyver reference which can get really annoying to listen to. Really though, this episode is just the same as most of these. Sonic deals with a random character and eventually convinces him to fight against Eggman. Just the usual shit at this point. Mama Robotnik comes back from her nursing home and disowns Eggman and adopts Sonic, which uses her to force him to work non-stop for her. This was a really good episode. Most of the jokes are actually funny in this one.
You called that busybody social worker, didn't you, Lardo?
Yes, Mama.
And you let her in, didn't you?
Yes, Mama.
I'm pretty happy that this episode was pretty good because I was starting to get really tired of this show. But now on to the next episode. Sonic sneaks onto Eggman's ship and goes into space, but when they lose the spaceship, Sonic, Tails, Scratch, and Grounders are now stuck on a space station getting chased by a weird slime monster. This was also a pretty good episode. It was nothing too special, but let's mix things up by letting people go into space. The slime monster was also kinda cool. I do know that if I watched this when I was younger, this episode would have scared the shit out of me. This shit would be like nightmare fuel for me. This episode was just a parody of Mad Max with the fucking bears from the train episode. The episode is fine, but I could not care much about this episode. Main reason being that I'm not a big fan of Mad Max in general, so this stuff bored me very quickly. After Eggman declares that he's retiring, Sonic goes on a vacation that's actually filled with traps made by Eggman so he can get him. This was a really good episode. The episode consists of mostly just a bunch of set pieces, but it's better than most of these fucking episodes anyway, so I'll take this any day. I just want to say that going for all these episodes in one sitting was absolute hell. I was so tired of this shit that I had to take like a 2-week break due to how mind-numbing this shit was. But enough bitching, let's get back to this shit and finish the series. Eggman starts a rebel against this guy named Brandon Quirk, as both of them want to rule the world, and Sonic just screws them so they continue to fight each other instead of trying to capture him. This was another decent episode and it had a bunch of good jokes in it.
Chill out, dudes.
Watch your tone. I made you, and I can break you.
I doubt it, Mother Goose.
I do hope this is the beginning of a trend of good episodes continue on from here, because when the show is good, it can be quite fun. Coconut, who I just realized I never mentioned before, mostly because he gets shoved aside most of these episodes, but this episode is about him buying a bunch of magic tricks from Weasley to try and capture Sonic. But as usual, things go wrong. It's a fine episode, but the best part is when Eggman realizes that Coconut tricked him into buying an IOU and has to pay for all the stuff that Coconut got, which was a nice way to end the episode. Sonic tries to help Robotnik Jr. get with Breezy, the girl from the third episode, but Breezy is still in love with Sonic and doesn't give Robotnik Jr. a chance. The episode's not really that good, which sucks. I love the idea, but the execution is done badly. Breezy just falls in love with Robotnik Jr. a bit out of nowhere, and he never is able to really impress her until Tails tells her that he loves her, then she starts to like him. Just a boring episode. Tails helps Professor Vaughn of Invention to stop Eggman, gets to do this after he proves that he's great at inventing things, but things go wrong when Eggman takes over the place and now up to Sonic to save them. It's an okay episode, but the only thing I like is that they actually show Tails making things, which will become a big part of his personality later on. A space hunter named Carolia kidnaps most of the people on Mobius to make a zoo, but she also forces Eggman to marry her. It was a pretty good episode with a decent payoff. I always had some of us that are really fun drawing her. She honestly feels out of place in the show, but besides that, this is a pretty good episode. Eggman uses a ray gun that's able to make everyone on Mobius stupid, but Sonic, Weasley, and this army character named Doberman join forces to stop Eggman. This episode was okay. Weasley and Doberman were just really annoying to listen to, and I was getting tired of them real quickly. The only other interesting thing is that the episode seems based off the pinball game, which did make the episode much more interesting visually. But besides that, it's just another pretty boring episode. This was a very good episode. It's mostly about Eggman trying to destroy Mobius' transit system with Sonic having to quickly go back and forth between each area before the bombs go off. It was a decent episode that actually had some stake and was very well paced. This might be one of the best episodes in the series, which is pretty funny since it isn't even that great of an episode, but I'll take what I can get. After Scratch and Grounder fails to capture Sonic again, Eggman makes a coach robot to train them to be better at catching Sonic. Now this is a pretty good setup for an episode, but they do nothing with it and just make it a sport themed episode. It was honestly pretty boring, but it wasn't too bad, just knowing how they wasted the concept. Eggman attempts to steal money from a diner that Sonic likes, which uses Sonic going to protect it from Eggman. It's not bad, but it's not too great either, just kind of mediocre, but it wasn't too annoying to listen to, thankfully. Eggman gets superpowers and is able to quickly beat Sonic and take over Mobius. It's a pretty fun episode. It's a concept I don't think has ever been done before, so even though it's done in a more joking manner, it's still a pretty cool idea. The only thing I didn't like in this episode was how many times Eggman rubs his ass. Since that was his only weakness, so it makes sense why they will point it out, but I can only see Eggman rub his ass so many fucking times. A meteor is about to hit a village, and Eggman threatens that if Sonic doesn't join and partake in his Olympics, he won't stop the meteor from crashing into the village. It was a pretty decent episode. The race at the end was actually pretty fun to watch. I do want to say at this point I am fucking drained from watching all this shit and just want this to fucking end. And we still have 20 more episodes to go, dear God. Sonic becomes the sheriff of Western Town and protects from Eggman. I don't like westerns at all, so I didn't care too much for this episode, but it wasn't too bad. I do find it funny how Sonic's constantly wooing all the girls and he's loving it. It's very jarring compared to what he will become later in the series. This episode marks the beginning of a 4-parter, which is about Eggman trying to get all the Chaos Emeralds. It's honestly the best part of the show as Sonic actually gets to go on adventures. This episode is about Eggman going back in time during Age of Pirates to get a Chaos Emerald that makes the person holding it invisible. That's another thing they did as well, they gave each emerald its own power, which actually helps add stake to the episode on if Eggman can get it or not. While it was a pretty fun episode, there's not much else to know since even though it's an interesting idea for an episode, it's still pretty bare bones with annoying jokes. Eggman goes back in time to the Age of the Knights and attempts to get the Chaos Emerald that makes the person using it invincible. The episode is pretty good. I do have the same thing as the last episode, but the most interesting part is what happened when I was watching it. I went and bought the series on DVD, but when I went to select the episode, I got to witness this beauty. I don't even think the song's even official artwork. But anyways, when I was watching the episode, it started to glitch out and it fucking scared the shit out of me. But due to how bootleg the menu was, I thought the DVD may have been tampered with and I was about to get fucking jump scared. I will say I was more scared of the fact that I was going to admit to being scared from Sonic.exe than the actual jump scare itself, but it was just a video glitch. I guess the show just wanted to keep me on my toes. This time, Eggman goes back and kind of get the Immortality Emerald and at the same time prevent Sonic from ever being born. I just want to say on every episode of this 4-parter, Sonic supposed to get a lady at the beach in the beginning of every episode until he's interrupted by a scientist. I just find it funny since people attempt to say that Sonic doesn't care about love, so it's funny to see an older version which is the complete opposite, which is that Sonic wants to fuck. Also, they do a parody of Back to the Future with Sonic trying to get his ancestors to fall in love, which is pretty fun, which is another good episode. Eggman goes to the prehistoric time to get the Emerald alive. This time Eggman actually succeeds and goes back in time to get all the other emeralds, which leads to becoming the Supreme High Eggman and starts to take over Mobius. Sonic's able to stop him by going back in time and getting a bunch of other Sonic and Tails to show him to take on Eggman all at once. It was a great finale to the 4-parter and honestly would have been a good finale for the show. This is probably the last highlight of the show though, sadly, but who knows, maybe the show can give us another good episode. After Sonic saves the village, he greets someone in the villagers by taking care of their baby as they go and get stuff so they can celebrate Sonic. It's just a generic baby episode. A character has to take care of the baby, but it turns out to be more difficult than they thought. I hate these kind of episodes. It doesn't help the babies are really annoying. It's just a shit episode. Eggman shrinks Sonic as someone saves in Mobius and puts him in the terrarium. Sonic now has to find a way to escape and find a way to get himself back to the original size so he can stop Eggman. It's a fine episode, nothing too special about it. Like I said at the beginning, the episodes are just so fucking bare bones that it's hard to talk about these episodes. So sorry again for the limited commentary I have from now on. Eggman takes over an amusement park and turns into a trap for Sonic on his birthday. It's a decent episode with a lot of fun set pieces. I do wonder if this episode would be the inspiration for Eggman Land, which is something that Eggman will become obsessed with later on in the series. But yeah, this wasn't that bad. Sonic participates in the giant race to help save an orphanage from closing, but Eggman attempts to rig the race in his favor.
Oh, I could kiss you for that! Jeez! I never knew you cared so much!
I don't care too much for racing episodes, so this was pretty boring for me to watch. Wasn't too bad though, I just don't like racing episodes. But even then, this episode was pretty okay. Eggman teams up with Captain Nemo to destroy an underwater world, and now it's up to Sonic to stop them. It's another fine episode, nothing too special, but once again, Sonic is messing around with a mermaid girl. I didn't know that this blue fucking rat would have this much game, but this is just another okay episode. Sonic loses his memory and fucking joins a biker gang. Tails now needs to find a way to make Sonic remember who he is so he can stop Eggman's plans. This episode does kind of waste the idea, but it's so absurd that I don't care that it does. It was another pretty fun episode. I do hope we can get a few more of these though before the show ends. Scratch and Grinder decided to create a robot son, but the kid hates it and runs away with a bomb that can blow up the planet. So now they have to find the robot kid with the help of Sonic before it's too late. It was a decent episode, the best part was this though. I didn't realize that Scratch and Grinder was the gay icon the world needed. But yeah, overall it was a good episode. When Sonic mysteriously disappeared, Tails teams up with Professor Vaughn and a French duck.
I think his saying they went in that direction.
Oh dear. They found out that Sonic is trapped in a cursed Mayan temple and now they have to come up with a plan to rescue him. It's a decent Tails-centric episode, but the other side characters are really annoying to listen to. It honestly ruined the episode for me. What a shame. Weasley is bought out by Eggman to trap Sonic and all his friends on a cruise ship that is celebrating Sonic, but after they get captured, Weasley has to change their heart and save Sonic. It's a decent episode, but it releases a lot of clips. It's basically just a clip show episode, but it's done a lot better than most of these types of episodes. It was overall a good time. Sonic attempts to help a Comet and steal a Chaos Emerald ring from Eggman. Due to this, Eggman wants to hunt him down to get his ring back so he can power his machine with it. It's another generic episode. The only really interesting thing that we get told is that there's another Chaos Emerald that's the most powerful one of them all. It was a nice touch of world building, but besides that, just another okay episode. Eggman takes over a reality TV show, started by himself, and uses it to capture Sonic. It's another okay episode, not too much to say about it besides the fact that we are so close to the finish line, we are so goddamn close. So let's get the last few episodes done. Mama Robotnik forces Eggman to join a political race to become President Mobius, but due to that, Sonic joins the race as well to screw over Eggman.
I don't know about this, Wes. I tried having a wife once and it didn't work out.
It was a pretty fun episode. I enjoyed it a lot, but there isn't too much else to say about it, so let's go on to the next one. Eggman captures a ninja master and forces him to turn Scratch and Ground into ninjas so they can capture Sonic. This episode though is kind of racist as they mock Chinese voices throughout the whole thing.
Is everybody gonna be talking this way?
Didn't realize that Sonic was so red pill, but really though it isn't that serious. Besides that shit, just another generic episode. Sonic, Tails, and Eggman gets trapped inside fairy tales, and once they find a way out of there, Eggman uses those fairy tales to take over Mobius. It was a fun episode that made fun of a lot of fairy tales. It was a nice way to end the series, but we are still not done yet. There's one more episode. This was a Christmas special that was originally made to advertise Sonic Extreme, but once it got cancelled, they changed the title to reflect the 3D Blast game. Eggman takes the role of Santa so he can force everyone to give him presents, the bastard, but this leads to Sonic having to find Santa and help deliver presents to the world. It's a half-decent Christmas special. The animation also got a decent upgrade and looks really good. What the fuck is Sally doing here? I haven't talked about her yet, but she's a main character in the next show, so it's really jarring to see her here for some reason. The specials were made after the Dick cartoons were over, so some matter must just put her so Sonic will have a girlfriend. But really though, the stuff surrounding the episode is more interesting than the actual episode itself. It's once again a generic episode. I am so tired of saying that. And that's it. This was fucking awful. While the show did have some good episodes, the overall show was just not good. It was incredibly annoying and ran for way too long. I originally planned to do a ranking, but the episodes were so bland that I couldn't really rank them, so I decided I would recommend the actual good episodes in the show. These are not ranked in any particular order. High Stakes Sonic, Best Hedgehog, Tails New Home, The Pseudo Sonic, Grounded a Genius, Mass Transit Trouble, Super Robotnik, The Chaos Emerald Quadrilogy, Roadhog, and Sonically Ever After. 13 good episodes out of 66. This was hell, and I'm happy that's finally over, but I won't pretend and say that there wasn't any good stuff from this, but now it's time to go over the actual good show. One of the more beloved cartoons out of the bunch. Sonic SATAM was about Eggman actually winning and taking over Mobius, and now it's up to Sonic, a group of freedom fighters to save the planet. Already, the show has a complete different vibe from the first, as this show's a lot more dark and mature in its storytelling. It definitely does have its moments though.
Sonic Hedgehog! La 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 la!
One of the things I like the most about the series is all the background art. I love the cyberpunk apocalyptic style, and the show is always showing off these kind of backgrounds. It's honestly pretty reminiscent of shows like Ghost in the Shell. The other thing I like the most is the show's portrayal of Eggman. He's much more threatening than the last show and is incredibly menacing. This might be one of the few times where they actually try to make Eggman this threatening, since most of the time he's usually more of a joke than an actually threatening villain. The show also introduced a few new characters. The first and most important one is Sally Acorn. She is the princess of the land, but her father disappeared after the invasion and spends most of the show trying to figure out where her father went. She herself is a lot more confident and smarter than Sonic and uses her computer phone, the code, to take down Eggman. The most important thing about her though is that she's also Sonic's girlfriend in the show, which some people take great offense to.
Fucking sit on the fucking screen.
But really though, the relationship between the two is actually pretty sweet. For the other characters, there is Rotor and Bunny, who are decent characters, but they aren't expanded upon too much in the show, but they're still pretty good. Another character in the show is Snively, Eggman's underling. He doesn't do too much in the first season, but in the second season he gets a much better personality. He just gets very fed up with Eggman shit and it's fun to watch.
Have a nice trip, sir. Miserable.
The last character introduced is Antoine, who is...
Oh, a terrible cold. I think we should return to Natal.
We'll get into him later on, so for now we'll just stop wasting time and get into the first episode. After Sally and Sonic hack into Eggman's mainframe, they discover a message that Sally believes is from her father. She and Antoine goes alone to find the origin of the message, but Sonic is told by Cat, who was captured, that Eggman plans to ambush them, and now it's up to Sonic to catch up to them before they get captured. It's a decent episode. I will say it's so much better to have an actual story compared to the complete nonsense from the last show. The only thing I didn't like was Antoine, but like I said, we will talk about him later down the line. But for now, we'll just say he's really annoying and is always the worst part of the episode. Another thing I like in this episode is how well they built the atmosphere. It's very brooding and creates a great sense of dread. I do think it's the most atmospheric episode in the show. They really show off the background art in this one compared to the rest of the episodes. Well, let's continue on to the next episode now. Eggman captures Sally and creates a robot clone of her to trick the Freedom Fighters into falling into traps so they can get ambushed. But Tails is the only one to figure out that Sally is a clone, and which he tips off Sonic about, which leads him to go to rescue Sally before she gets roboticized. Which, for context, this means you get turned into a robot and lose your mind, so basically that. This was a really good episode. The episode does show the best part about the show though, which is how they can take a generic idea like clones and able to write in a way that makes it interesting and not tropey at all. I do want to say that Tails does get thrown to his side a lot on the show. I did hear they wanted to bring him into the show a lot more, but the show got cancelled before they can do that. But now let's move on to the next episode. During a mission, Sonic recognizes Uncle Chuck, who is now roboticized. Sonic gives him a power ring, which is able to bring his mind back. For context, power rings are these rings that are basically a way for Sonic to get out of any bad situation. He can become powerful, bring back robots' minds, basically anything the plot asks for. It is kind of world breaking as it does become a kind of Deus Ex Machina, but it's not really that bad as they only get one every 24 hours, which does limit its powers, but anyways. Uncle Chuck warns that Eggman is mining a crystal that can kill all life on Mobius. This episode is really great, and one of the reasons that makes it great is the ending where Sonic's unable to save Uncle Chuck as he goes back to being a robot.
Come on, Sugarhog! Uncle Chuck!
Sonic, we have to leave him.
It's really surprising for how dark this is. They do bring Chuck back later on, but at the time they never mentioned for the rest of season 1. It really shows how dark the show is willing to go, and it's great to watch after all the nonsense from the last show. On to the next one. This is the first bad episode in the show, and honestly it's not that bad, just really boring. Sonic and the Freedom Fighters go to the Great Mountains to find the secret scrolls that will help them in their fight against Eggman. But what they don't know is Eggman is following them to try to steal the scroll from them. Like I said, the episode's biggest problem is that it's just boring. Not much happens to the episode as they're exploring, besides solving a bunch of dumb riddles. Even Eggman shows up to make it that interesting. But still, it wasn't that bad. I just really had more things to do in the tempo. But now let's move on to the next one. Sonic finds out about a computer filled with spells that's owned by the wizard Lazar. Eggman steals it and Lazar believes that was Sonic who stole it. This leads to the wizard taking away Sonic's speed and tells him that he will get back to him after he finds the computer and returns it to him. It's an okay episode. I think the biggest problem with the episode is pretty overkill thing. The episode started with Nicole running out of batteries, but it gets pushed to the back to focus on the wizard stuff. But it gets so overcomplicated the episode never has time to breathe. By the time things are set up, the episode is close to being over. But I will say, for what is there, it's still pretty good. It's just too much stuff for one episode. The Freedom Fighters attempt to destroy Eggman's power generator, but Sonic is lured into a race by Eggman to determine who's the fastest in Mobius. This leads to Sonic racing against a robot designed to meet Sonic's speed, and while all this is happening, the Resistance continues their mission without him. It's a pretty good episode. As I said earlier, I don't really care for racing focused episodes, but this was definitely the best version I've seen of this plot. I especially like how it ends with Sonic abandoning race to save Antoine from dying like a fucking idiot. Don't worry, next episode we will finally talk about him, but like I said, the episode is really good for a racing episode. After Sonic beats another one of Eggman's scheme, he's celebrated by the Resistance, but Antoine begins to become jealous of Sonic. You know, for saving their asses. Because of that, Antoine wants to take the attention away from Sonic and put it onto himself, especially from Sally. He tries to get attention by capturing Eggman, but it goes wrong, he gets captured himself, and now it's up to Sonic to save him. Best to do it without his speed since Antoine broke a power ring and now Eggman has it, using it against Sonic. Dear God, what an annoying fuck. This is why I left Antoine for last. This guy is the most annoying asshole I've ever seen in a cartoon. Antoine is basically the comedy relief for the show, which is fine. Sure, he's a French stereotype, but that's not the worst of it. All he ever does is just cries non-stop and that's it. But even then, he wouldn't be that bad. The real problem is that he's basically the reason that shit goes wrong. It just makes him insufferable. And in this episode in particular, he literally endangers the entire Resistance just because he got cucked by Sonic. And I really do hate it when people over-exaggerate how annoying a character is, but the reason I hate it is not the fact that he's annoying, it's the fact they push him to every episode just to screw things up and it just gets tiring. Sadly, this leads to the episode being one of the worst episodes in the show yet, and this happened because they were most likely forced to make a story focusing on him, but honestly it's not the end of the world, just a really annoying episode. The freedom fighters discover that Eggman sent a spy orb into space to find out where their base, Naho, is located. This leads to Sonic and Rotor going on a rocket ship to shut down the spy orb. It's a pretty fun episode. The plot is pretty simple, but I do love the setting, especially all the alien designs.
Man, you are terrible. That work.
I will say I do like these more simple stories compared to all the plot heavy ones, as they allow some characters to shine more. I hope we can see more of these. Eggman plans to use a toxic rain to destroy the Great Forest to expose Naho. Sally some of the Freedom Fighters attempt to stop him, but they end up getting caught. It's now up to Sonic to save them, but Sonic has been having nightmares where Sally is being roboticized, so now he starts to freeze up a lot more. This was a really good episode. I do think the toxic rain plot wasn't too interesting, but the Sonic subplot is so much more interesting. Seeing Sonic freeze up from the idea of losing someone is something I don't think has ever been done outside of the comics. It was the highlight of the episode for me. I'm really surprised how good this show is. It's surprisingly good for a 90s cartoon, but let's move on now. After a mission goes wrong, a guy named Griff saves Sonic and Sally and shows him his underground resistant base. Sally takes Griff to Naho, but turns out Griff wanted to steal a power stone so he can build a power up his base that's about to run out of power. But the problem is that the power stones need to make the power rings. It was a pretty good episode to help expand the universe a bit more. It was a bit annoying with the whole love triangle between Sonic, Sally, and Griff, but I did love to see Antoine get cucked by the two people. The ending was also good, with Sonic breaking the power stone in half to help Griff. Another great episode, hope the next one's great as well. Eggman sends snake probes into the ground to find lakes of oil, but this leads to the water sources getting polluted by the oil. Sonic and the Freedom Fighters go underground to investigate while a giant monster hunts them down, as it believes Sonic is the reason his species died off. Another great episode. I love the monster design, it's the most creepy monster design in the show. It just looks so cool. I also like how Rotor gets a chance to shine as he has to save Sonic and friends from the tar pit. All around a great episode. Tail befriends a herd of pteropods that are attempting to migrate, but Eggman wants to capture them so he can roboticize them and use them for his army. It's an okay episode, but pretty mediocre. It wants to be lighthearted, but this leads to the episode being kinda boring. Now let's get to the last episode of the first season. This is a weird episode. The episode was the original pilot for the show when the show was much more lighthearted. All the character designs are more simple, Eggman wasn't as threatening, and Tails was much more involved in the show. And the art style was a lot more tame and lacked the atmosphere from the normal episodes. It all came together to make such an off-putting episode, especially this late into the show. The actual plot is about Sonic and Tails messing around in a city and then dealing with a missile that's able to track Sonic. The pilot is very bare bones, and honestly pretty reminiscent of the adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog. It wasn't that good, but it was not the worst. It was incredibly jarring. Before we get into this episode, I do want to talk about the changes that were made to Season 2. Sally has a jacket now, they changed her design which looks worse than his first. They added a new character named Dulcie, a young dragon, but she's pretty annoying as she's the same joke over and over.
I'm fine, Ma.
Even though she's annoying, she's still not as bad as Antoine. I can't believe that Riot is somehow able to be the most annoying character in the show. And speaking of Antoine, they now have 4 11-minute episodes that all feature Antoine as the main character, which is going to be so great. One last thing that they changed is that the show is not as dark as the first season. It still keeps the same tone, but you can kind of tell that it's lighter. There's more jokes, the situation never get too dire, and Eggman isn't as threatening as he was in the first season. It doesn't hurt the show, but it's quite noticeable. But let's get into the episode. The episode is about Sally making a machine that will turn robots back into their original selves. Sonic gets Uncle Chuck back to his original self, but not for too long. The machine fails and Uncle Chuck goes back to being a robot, but Sonic's able to keep Chuck's mind the same, so they become a spy for the Freedom Fighters. It's a decent episode, but I do think that the ending's a bit of a cop-out, but honestly, I don't mind, since I do like Chuck as a character, so I don't mind it at all. Not a bad start to Season 2, I hope that they can keep this up for the rest of the season. Sonic attempts to help a guy named Ari who asks for help to rescue his team of Freedom Fighters. Turns out that it's actually trapped by Eggman, and now Sonic is stuck inside a pinball game where he has to avoid falling into the void. This is a plot point that will come back later, as the void is pretty important later on. Ari gets backstabbed by Eggman, so he goes back to save Sonic, but this leads him to falling into the void. But before he can fall into the void though, he tells Sonic that there are Freedom Fighters around Mobius. This was a pretty fun episode. It is a bit of an advertisement for Sonic's pinball, but it's not too distracting. I'm also impressed how they managed to set things up without being too obvious about story points like the void. Overall, a good episode. Sonic loses his memory during a mission, and Snively manipulates him into revealing where Naho is at. Sally is able to bring his memory back, where he quickly stops Snively and tricks Snively into going in the middle of a swamp looking for Naho with Eggman. It's a much simpler plot, but it's pretty good. Snively was a pretty good villain. He honestly has been building up a personality for the second season, and he's much more against Eggman, makes fun of him a lot.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Another great episode. After failing a mission, Sonic begins to have second thoughts about containing resistance, but Delta tells him of the time so that they can take them back in time before the invasion happens. Sonic and Sally get the stone and go back in time to warn Sally's father, but they are too late as the invasion begins. It's a really great episode. We get to see a younger version of Sonic and Sally, which was nice, and we get to see Chuck before he got roboticized. It was also nice to see Sally finally reunite with her father.
I haven't seen him for so long.
This is what you've been waiting for, Sal. Trust me, Sal. It'll be way cool.
It was just a really good episode. As the invasion begins, Sonic has to save the younger version of himself and Sally from getting roboticized, and has to save the Great Forest from being destroyed. But after they succeed in both, they're still unable to stop everything if they go back in time. The episode had great pacing and has some big stakes in it as well. This might be one of the best episodes in the show. The ending was also nice, as they save someone from getting roboticized in the future by warning her to never leave Naho.
Just promise me you'll never leave Knothole. Never? Dear, I don't. Never.
This was just an overall good two-parter. Hoping we can have more of these. This is the start for some of the 11-minute episodes, which mostly star Antoine, everyone's favorite character. This one's about Antoine being upset at everyone like usual, and it's picked up by a biker gang that treats him like a king, but it turns out the gang are cannibals and are planning to eat Antoine. This was a dumb episode. Antoine is annoying as usual, but the episode was pretty short, so it doesn't get too gritty. It really sucks they made so many episodes for this guy, because the show is great without him, but enough bitching, let's move on to the next one. Sonic, Tails, and Antoine camp out in the forest, and at night Sonic tells Tails a ghost story. Later into the night, Tails sees the ghost from the story and gets scared. He and Sonic go into the woods to hunt down the ghost, only to discover it's just Antoine being a dumbass, like usual. This is the better one of the short episodes, but even then, this was kinda boring. At least Antoine wasn't in it that much. Dulcie flies toward a dragon main ground every time she goes to sleep, which leaves her crashing into everything. Sonic and Sally help Dulcie get there, only to find an egg abandoned, since Eggman has captured the mother and plans to roboticize her. It's now up to Sonic to find the mother before it's too late. The episode is pretty decent, but Dulcie doesn't break it down for me. She's annoying as usual, but due to the episode focusing on her, she's constantly making bad jokes and overstays her welcome very quickly. But like I said, the episode's still decent. Sally and Bunny get sent to the void by Red Magic, which uses Sonic team up from Nicole to find them. A wizard named Nagus, who was put in the void by Eggman, brings the girls into the void so he can lure Sonic there. Once Sonic gets there, he tricks Sonic into releasing him from the void so he can get revenge on Eggman. As Nagus torments Eggman, Nagus starts turning to Crystal, as he and Sally's father, who's also in the void, have been in the void for too long, which means they have to go back, but they are able to rescue Ari and get the list of all the freedom fighters around Mobius. It's another good episode. We finally get to see the void and see what happened to Sally's father, but also Sonic now has a list of freedom fighters that can help expand the world of Mobius as they go around and try to find them. This is also the first episode mentioned in Doomsday Project, which is the final plan to take over Mobius by Eggman. We will get to see that to the very end. But yeah, this is another good episode. After Dulcie destroys Sonic's house, Sonic moves in with Antoine as he repairs Sonic's home. Antoine begins to go crazy from how Sonic acts in his house, and then he throws a giant tantrum. This fucking episode is so goddamn miserable. It almost feels like I'm watching an episode from The Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog. This takes the cake as the worst episode of the series, and we still have one more Antoine episode to go after this, and I hope it's much better than this. Antoine helps Rotor build a robot, but he accidentally starts it up, which leads to the robot falling in love with him. This is actually a really good episode. I don't think I was ever going to say this about an Antoine episode, but here we are. Almost all the slapstick jokes work, and the twist of the end was actually pretty funny.
I will speak with a foreign accent.
Hey, Metalhead! My name is Antoine!
I was pretty happy this episode was good, because I really didn't want to sit for another annoying ass Antoine episode. This is the last 11 episode in the series, so from now on, it's just be story focused episodes.
Sonic, dead or alive?
Sonic and Sally meet up with another group of resistance fighters who are a bunch of wolves. They then have to team up to stop an indestructible robot called a Doomsday Bot. It's not too interesting, but I do love how the show is expanding the universe and how it's setting up the finale, but I just found this episode pretty boring and repetitive. But not much else to say for this episode, so let's move on. Sonic learns of the Hedgehog, a place that contains deep power stones that Eggman will use to power up his Doomsday device, so Tails makes up a plan that will trick Eggman to think that the stones are destroyed and so he will stop looking for them. It's a pretty decent episode, but it does have a few problems. The first half of the episode focuses on Sonic and Tails messing around, so the episode doesn't really start until the second half. But because of that, the episode doesn't have much time to set up everything properly or even set up any stakes. It doesn't ruin the episode, but it makes it weaker compared to the other ones. While Uncle Chuck is spying on Eggman, his bug starts to malfunction and he goes to fix it. Meanwhile, Sally downloads the files for the Doomsday Project, but she learns that Eggman's on the Chuck, so she sends Antoine to go find Chuck before it's too late, in which, why the fuck would you do that? And it goes exactly how you expect it to. But I will say, the torture scene for Antoine was actually pretty funny.
I will never talk!
Then I must make escargot!
But escargot are too special, you fiend!
Sonic learns of this and goes to save both Chuck and Antoine. The episode was pretty good and it gave Chuck some needed screen time. I do want to say I do like how the show's been building up the finale, as it really builds up hype for what the machine will be able to do. But let's stop delaying and go over the last episode. Sonic and the Freedom Fighters prepare for the Doomsday Project, but it turns out Eggman starts the project 1 week earlier than expected, and now the Freedom Fighters have to figure out a way to stop it. The Doomsday Project itself is actually a machine that creates the Doomsday Pods, but it makes several of them very quickly, and Eggman plans to use them to take over the world for good. Sonic and Sally reverse the deep power stones and power up so they can destroy the machine for good, which leads to a pretty good scene.
I really hate that Hedgehog. I hate him. I hate him. Hate him! Hate, 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 hate!
It even ends with Antoine getting cucked, the best way to end the show. The season does end on a cliffhanger that reveals that Snively would take over Eggman's role and used to help a mysterious figure. But sadly the show would get cancelled, but we did learn that the guy was actually Nagus, which was revealed by the writer of the show. Even though the show did get cancelled on a cliffhanger, the finale is still really great and honestly ends the show pretty decently. Overall, the show is really good. The show is able to keep me on the edge of my seat for most of the show, which is something I never expected to say for a Saturday morning cartoon. This is the last time that we would see the Freedom Fighters again, besides the comics and pinball game, which sucks. I would like to see these characters again, but it does make sense why they aren't brought back. Sonic already has a shitload of friends now, so try and bring another giant cast or just overload the cast at this point, especially since personally I like to see new characters get a chance to shine. Before we move on, I'll rank these episodes. Starting from the worst, The Odd Couple, Fed Up with Antoine, Hooked on Sonic, Sonic and the Secret Squirrels, Sonic Past Cool, Ghost Busted, Heads or Tails, Rebecca, Dulcie, Supersonic, Cry of the Wolf, Harmonic Sonic, Sonic's Nightmare, Sonic Boom, Druid Henge, Game Guy, The Void, Subsonic, No Brainer, Spy Hog, Sonic Racer, Sonic Aversion, Doomsday Project, Blast of the Past Part 1, Warp Sonic, Ultrasonic, Blast of the Past Part 2, and Sonic and Sally. I do want to say that if you're a fan of Sonic, I greatly recommend the show. It does have its annoying moments, but the show has so many great moments and episodes that it becomes an absolute must-watch for Sonic fans. This is probably the weirdest show I've watched in a long time. It just feels like a show that was made by someone who only saw Sonic, just the character design and nothing else, because they added and changed so many things for some fucking reason. Sonic now has 2 siblings, he's the son of a queen, and he has musical instruments that can be used as weapons against Eggman. It's just so weird, which is a thing you say lightly for Sonic stuff, but let's go over the main plot. Sonic's mom, the queen, has to separate and abandon her kids after a fortune teller tells her that she must do that so they can have a chance to save the kingdom when Eggman takes over. Because of this, Sonic has siblings who all have different backgrounds. Sonic is just himself and was raised normally. Manic is a kid that had to grow up on the street with no family besides a thief, that poor bastard. And then there is Sonia, a girl who was raised in a high-class society. I do want to say that Jahal White, the guy who voiced Sonic in these cartoons, was tasked to voice all 3 siblings, including Sonia, which is amazing as you think it is.
Your dad never does anything, he doesn't need to.
They team up together so they can find their mother while battling Eggman and his 2 henchmen, Dingo and Sleep. Dingo is just a dumb henchman who's doing his best to go down the bad YouTuber path.
She's pretty. And you're ugly. Now let's get to work.
And Sleep is just a smart henchman who hates Dingo's guts. I will say the actor who voiced Sleep was the actor for Embryo from Crash Bandicoot, and he has the same exact voice.
If you obtain all 42 gems, I can use them to focus a laser. Ah, yes, a laser beam.
This just threw me off a lot, but really though, is the show actually good? I rarely see anybody talk about this show besides the damn theme song, which is pretty good, but back to the show. Is it good? The show isn't awful, but it's not decent either. It just hits the perfect spot of being generic and forgettable. Which I didn't expect to say that for this kind of show, but that's how it is. Let's start going for all the episodes so I can show how generic the show can be. Also, there's a song in every episode which all suck. I'm not going over them since they're all dumb and forgettable. but I did want to bring it up before we start. But no more delaying, let's get this started. Is that fucking Comic Sans? The episode is about Eggman wanting Queen Leah to marry him, but if she doesn't show up, he'll be given the role of king. The kids plan for Manic disguised as their mother so they can trick Eggman into thinking she's there. But it turns out that the hooded person wasn't Manic and was actually the queen herself. This episode is fine, nothing too special about it. Besides that, I am happy the characters aren't that annoying, but it still doesn't help make the show any better though. On to the next one. The captain of the guard, Argus, is roboticized and is unable to meet up with the queen at their meeting spot. The kids find out about this and attempt to find him and find a way to bring his mind back so they can find a meeting place and meet the queen, only to give up that chance so that Dingo and Sleek can't find her. Once again, the episode is fine. I'm gonna say that way too many times. I should mention that Sleek uses a remote that's able to change Dingo into anything, which is just a weird thing to see every time they do this. But let's continue on. An actual decent episode. The kids find their hometown that is completely untouched by Eggman's forces. Manic visits his old home, but uses no one to stay there since he finally feels like he has a place to call home. But when Sling and Dingo threaten to attack the town, they need to team up to stop them. But at the end of the episode, Manic continues to stay with his siblings. This episode is pretty decent, bowling for one moment with Manic, which is actually quite sad.
But me, I always wanted to just have one place where I really belonged. A place I could call my own.
Besides this, the episode's quality matches the rest of the episodes before. Generic as usual. Sonia goes to meet her friend Mindy, who gives her a watch. But the watch is actually a tracking device that was actually from Mindy's father, who was scared of losing her, so he decided to sell them out to protect her. The kids team up to stop the robots as Mindy and her father escapes from Dingo and Sleek. This was a pretty okay episode, as it was actually pretty interesting to watch, but it doesn't change the fact that the songs suck. I really wish that these were included in the episodes. They are always the worst part of these episodes. I do want to mention that the character design of the shows are actually pretty cool. They all look so weird and unique and get off a weird cyberpunk look. I also did like the nightmare sequence, but they rarely ever do this type of thing with the characters after this, as I think it's the last time we get to see how the kids are dealing with the circumstance they are given. But let's get on to the next one. Slee and Dingo want to take the tax from the Dukes and keep it for themselves, but they need a fall guy to take the heat off of them. While that is happening, Manic meets up with street kids and then starts Liam going back to stealing stuff a lot. Slee and Dingo find out about this and plan to set him up as their fall guy, which works as this leads to them getting arrested, but it also leads to the street kids not getting home because of this. It's now up to Sonic and Sonia to find out what happened and clear Manic's name. It's a pretty decent episode, probably one of my favorite, but I won't pretend to say it's not generic as fuck. It feels like the show used a generic plot, but instead of doing something new with it, they follow it to the exact T. This leads to all these episodes being really tiring to watch, which sucks because we still have 35 more episodes to go. Dear God. Eggman blackmails Sonic's friend Cyrus by threatening the life of his father if he doesn't spy on Sonic and tell him the location of the sanctuary. Cyrus goes to the sanctuary only to discover it as a place for foster kids who are abandoned. Cyrus feels guilty and then rebels against Eggman and joins Sonic, but leads to his father getting roboticized. The episode is boring as hell, as it doesn't really try to set up the plot and quickly wraps it up. As soon as Cyrus discovers what the place is, he immediately revolts against Eggman, ending the plot right there. Which just makes me think, why do this plot in the first place if you don't care to actually do it right? I will say that the ending was kinda surprising for how dark it was. Cyrus is his father for good and it's never brought up again. This moment is honestly darker than any moment from Sonic's SATAM. It's so annoying to see this since I wish they would have more moments like this, but the show rarely ever tries to do this, as they focus more on shitty jokes. It sucks, but it is what it is, but now it's time to move on. The kids go to a port to help the locals deal with a sea monster that is sinking ships. Sonic refuses to go with them on a boat because he's afraid of water, but when he discovers Slee and Dingo are behind us, he has to find a way to warn Manic and Sonia. But to do that, he has to get over his fear of water to warn them. This was a pretty decent episode, and I like how they actually go over Sonic's fear of water, which may be the first time they actually make a story about this. I'm happy that some of these beginning episodes are actually good, because this starts to get a lot worse from here, so let's move on. The kids go to a Middle Eastern town to find Queen Lena's journals, but Sonia gets separated from the group and loses her memory, and this leads to her slowing off her musical instrument. But then she quickly regains her memory and has to finally get her instrument back. This sucked, and it's the first example of how the show just can't have a simple plot. They'll come up with a simple idea, but then move on to a different idea, then go to another idea, then they go back to the first idea. At least the episode's been disjointed, as nothing's given enough time to fully be set up, and before you know it, the episode's over. This gets very annoying real fast. Also, there's a scene with Sonic and Manic pretending to be belly dancers and they dance for sleep. This seems to be enjoying himself watching young kids dance. What the fuck is wrong with this show? As the kids are traveling through the wasteland, they find a peaceful place named Lake Valley Resort. The kids spend time there relaxing, but little do they know, the resort is actually under control of Eggman, who threatens assist in capturing the kids. It's an okay episode, honestly pretty forgettable, not much else to say. Sonya is given an invitation for a ball, but due to her responsibility, she's unable to attend it, and has to continue to fight Eggman, but due to this, she screws up on the mission, which leads the boys finding out about the ball and trying to find a way for her to attend. This episode sucked, which is weird because the story is good, but the execution is just bad. As I said before, the writing for the show is just all over the place, and you can feel it a lot here. It just feels so disjointed to the point that the plot feels like a side plot and not the main one, as they only focus on it until 3/4 of the way for the episode. What a shame, because this could have been a great episode if they would have spent more time on it, but it is what it is. Eggman sets up a track meet so he can lure Sonic into a trap, but at first Sonic wants to go, but he just decides that he doesn't want to do it. But only one problem, the siblings believe that he did go to the track meet and decided to go there to help him out. This leads into Sonic having to save them. This is like the 3rd time they did this idea, and this is the worst one yet. The motherfucker doesn't even show up to the damn race, which just makes me think, why would you even do this episode idea if you're not going to commit to it? It's just so stupid. The kids find a message that they believe is from their cousin telling them to come to a castle. But when they get there, they discover that it's actually a trap set by Sleet, and now they have to make it out of the castle without getting captured. It's a pretty decent episode, but that's what they could have focused on telling one story plot, not 3 of them. I did also like this moment though. I do think this is the first time where the Queen actually interacts with the kid in person, in which I do wish we had more moments like these. But hey, I'm just happy we got a good episode, hope it's the sign of things to come. The kids attempt to steal historical artifacts from Eggman and they still have a plan to get it, in which they quickly get with no trouble. Mag decides to sell it to a buyer to get some extra money, but it turns out the artifacts were actually bombs and now they have to quickly find them before it blows up. This just sucks. These episodes cannot just focus on one idea. The episode could have been good if it would just pace the episode better. Let's just move on now and go to the next episode. There's a swarm of metal bugs that are able to make people loyal to Eggman by stinging them. As the kids try to find a way to stop them, Manic gets stung by one and becomes loyal to Eggman. Eggman attempts to use his advantage, but the kids find out and quickly stop Manic. This then leads to them finding a way to stop the bugs. It's a fine episode, not too good, but the biggest problem is that there seems to be a recurring theme with these episodes. The episodes are either fine or they're just completely all over the place. I really do hope that these episodes start to get better from here and break this trend. This episode is the biggest example of this show's ADHD problems. The basic plot is really good. Eggman creates a serum that's able to make Sleet and Dingo as fast as Sonic. Sounds good, right? But the episode takes a right turn into a wall as serum causes the user's feet to grow big. Then Sonic and his siblings look for the factory that's producing this, but his siblings get tired of being fast for some reason. It kinda comes out of nowhere, and they study the serum on themselves, which leads them growing big feet, and now they have to get rescued by Sonic. But then after this, they quickly go back to finding a way to destroy the factory. What the fuck happened? Is there a requirement that they have to give a script to someone else every 30 minutes? Cause none of these plot points really come together. This was just fucking awful. Let's just get on to the next one. This episode is actually pretty good. I didn't think it was possible. The kids travel to a floating island to find their mother, but Sleet and Dingo are also there to find and steal the Chaos Emerald. They trick Knuckles.
Oh my god, Knuckles!
Yeah, Knuckles is in this show, which is so jarring to see other Sonic characters in a 90s cartoon. I will say his voice is also pretty jarring compared to how he usually is.
Hedgehog thieves!
But anyway, Sleet tricks Knuckles into thinking that Sonic and siblings are trying to steal the Chaos Emerald, which leads to Sonic and Knuckles fighting. This was a pretty good episode, but that's mostly due to the fact that it's just a Sonic 3 and Knuckles story, which is pretty hard to screw up, but hey, I'll take a good episode any day. Let's go on to the next one, hope this is the episode to break the trend. The kids get a message from their mother to visit Speedster Island. This leads to them going there and helping the natives from being tricked by Eggman. This episode is pretty generic, but the ending with the giant stone statues coming alive was cool. But besides that, it's just another boring episode. Sonic begins to get frustrated and wonder if their fighting is going to make a difference in the world. They go to the Oracle to ask him if they're doing the right thing and if they should continue the fight. The Oracle tells them that if they're able to help people enroll values in their instruments, he will tell them the future. This was a pretty good episode, and I get so in love with the show so I know how good some of the episodes can be, if they just focus on one idea instead of trying to do 3 ideas at the same time. It's just so fucking tiresome. But let's go on to the next one and see if it's any good. Eggman wants to steal a jewel from the Queen's crown, in which he is told the jewel will be able to lead straight to the Queen. But the kids find out about it and are able to get it first, but it turns out the jewel is something to a cave that was supposed to be a trap for Eggman. It was a pretty good episode. I also really liked the twist. It was the first time the show was actually able to throw me for a loop. Please, dear God, let this be a sign these episodes are going to start being better. Eggman creates a baby robot that's meant to be used as a way to find the sanctuary from a few episodes ago. Kids find it and Man begins to bond with it. But when he has to fight Slee and Dingo, he accidentally drops it and scares the baby was actually a fake. After that, they all team up to quickly stop Slee and Dingo. This is actually a great episode, and maybe one of the best episodes in the series yet. I know I've been ragging on the show a lot, but it's generally because of how bad these episodes are. I wish that the rest of the episodes had the same level of quality, but the show just keeps fumbling the bag. But let's move on now. The kids find a tribe in the desert and go to them to build an alliance. At night, Manic sees the leader is actually part roboticized. He gets caught by the leader's henchmen and they throw Manic out in the middle of the desert. The kids find out what happened to him and rescue him. The reason the leader's henchmen did this was because they feel like people found out that he's roboticized that will lead to him getting thrown out. It's another decent episode. I really did like the backstory of the leader. It really adds some depth to the episode. I wish the show would have more moments like this. It really does make the episode so much better when they do this. The kids plan to go and steal the royal crest from Eggman, but they find a message in it that tells them to go to a pyramid to find a scroll that can be used against Eggman. But the pyramid is filled with traps and is protected by a powerful mummy. This was pretty shit. It was boring, forgettable, and all over the place. I hope this one's just a bump in the road though. The kids find and rescue a guy from jail who claims to them that he's family, but they didn't realize that the guy is being forced by Eggman to capture them. He does this by separating them, which leads them to getting captured. They team up with the guy who was also thrown in jail so they can escape prison. This is another boring episode. I will give a credit that did stay on one idea though, but it doesn't help the episode for still being pretty boring. This one's a great episode. Honestly, probably up there as the best episode in the series. It's about the kids asking the Oracle for what happens in the future, and he just sends it to a reality where Eggman is actually the leader of the Resistance and the kids are the tyrants that are destroying Mobius. This was a really good idea, and each encounter for the kids is great.
Who are you? I'm what you should have been instead of what you are.
If you really wanted to watch an episode from this show, this would be the best one to watch. It is generally really good. So before we go on, the next 6 episodes are 2 different 3 episode arcs that are for some reason mixed together. Because of this, I'm just going to talk about the whole arcs on their own, instead of going through them separately to avoid confusion. Sonic and siblings team up with Knuckles to stop Eggman's flying fortress that is being powered by the Chaos Emerald. But when they get there to stop it, Slee and Dingo steal the Emerald from themselves. But once they break after they fight over who can have it, it leads to Chaos Energy being released from the Emerald, which, if not dealt with, could destroy reality. This was an okay trilogy. It does have the issue of jumping all over the place, but it's not bad compared to the other episodes. This is mostly because the plot is separated into 3 episodes, which allows the ideas to be expanded upon, but it doesn't change the fact that it's definitely the weakest trilogy yet. There are a few good moments though. The best part was when Knuckles decided to have an alliance with Eggman, so they can find a way to contain the Chaos Energy, but Eggman tells him he has to give up the kids. But right when the kids are about to be roboticized, Knuckles saves him and tells Eggman off. It's nothing that great, but definitely shakes things up for a bit. It all comes to that end when Dingo takes all the energy into himself, turns to a giant monster, and now it's up to Sonic and Knuckles to stop him and store all the Chaos Energy away. It's not that great of a finale, it just felt a bit underwhelming. Honestly, the whole trilogy felt underwhelming. It wasn't bad, but I can barely remember anything that happened without looking at my notes. What a shame. Hopefully the next trilogy is better though. This trilogy was just basically the pilot for the show. I don't get why they waited this long to make this kind of story, but whatever, we'll just go over the episodes. It's about the siblings meeting up for the first time. But when their original families get roboticized, they have to stick together. The Oracle teaches them how to use their musical medallions, but when Eggman captures the Oracle, they have to work together to save the Oracle. Honestly, this wasn't that bad, but I do think the episodes are much stronger together, but a bit weak on their own. Especially the second part, as not much happens in that one at all. I do still think that the placement of these episodes are pretty weird, since at this point, the origin is pretty unnecessary, as we don't learn anything that we didn't already know. But besides that, it was a pretty okay trilogy, but I probably won't ever watch it again, but to be honest, I think I can say that for the entire show. The kids are sent to the countryside to help stop a feud between 2 families who are part of the Resistance. This might be the most generic episode yet. I'm not even trying to be an asshole. If there was something good here, I would talk about it, but these episodes are just so fucking boring and predictable. I'm hoping it gets better from here though. Eggman creates a robot that works at a hair salon that is able to hypnotize people into revealing secrets. Sonya goes there and gets hypnotized and reveals the location of their base. She tries to find a way to get the info out of the robot without telling her brothers, but for some reason the brothers just let the robot get captured. They're kind of assholes for this. Sonya tells them the truth and now they have to team up to get the robot from Eggman. It was a pretty okay episode. It's a basic story, but it was enjoyable.
Sorry, he gets dropped on his head a lot.
The only funny joke in the entire show. That has to be an achievement. Joking aside, it's just a fine episode, nothing too great, but I do hope the last remaining episodes are about the same quality. A scientist claims that he made a machine that's able to reverse roboticization. Because of this, Eggman quickly sends Dingo and Slee after the scientist, but when they capture them, the scientists reveal that it's not real, and is forced by Eggman to trick Sonia into trying the machine out. It's a pretty decent episode. It just feels like the Sonic conversion episode from Sonic SATAM, but a lot more focus on the machine part of it. But hey, I'm just glad we got a decent episode. This was the most annoying episode yet, because it could have been really good, but it couldn't just make it work. First off, the story is based off of the fucking Sophie's Choice movie, you know, the Holocaust film, where her mother had to decide which one of her kids had to go to a concentration camp to die. That's what the title is parodying. And you know what? This isn't the only time this kind of stuff gets referenced, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You have to wait for the next video to learn what that is. But back to the story. It's about the kids stealing a goblin from Eggman, but leads to Sonic and Man getting captured. Eggman tells Sonia she only has enough time to rescue one, and now she has to choose which one to save. The reason this sucks because they barely spent any time on the actual choice.
What are you going to do, Sonia?
Can you access the main power banks with your computer?
I'm pretty sure I can.
I'm going to rescue both of them.
Kind of weird to do this when you're basing off the movie where a main character had to make that choice, but whatever. And yeah, they obviously weren't going to kill one of the characters, but they could have spent a lot more time on Sonia figuring out what to do. This just wastes the episode's concept. Shit, the mass transit episode from the Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog does this kind of plot much better, in which you shouldn't have the dumb comedy show have better stakes than the more serious show. It is just so disappointing. All I can say is I really hope the next few episodes are better than this. The kids have to abandon their vacation when they learn that Eggman's melting the ice cap to flood the planet. While they find a way to stop him, Sonia gets separated from the group and finds a group of penguins. The penguins believe that Sonia is Queen Elena and ask for her help to stop Eggman. This is once again a pretty boring episode, and a forgettable episode at that. I really don't have anything else to say about this episode, so let's just move on. Another boring episode. Eggman creates a new dart able to make people fall asleep. This leads to the kids looking for the source where these weapons were made so they can destroy the source for good. I am sorry I don't have much else to say about these episodes, but these episodes are just so goddamn generic that there's really nothing else for me to comment on. Let's just finish up the last 4 episodes and move on. An actual good episode? I didn't think it was possible. The episode's about Bartleby, a side character that has been in the show for a while and also Sonia had a crush on him. He is finally captured after Eggman finds out that he's been helping the kids. Eggman plans to use the trial of Bartleby as a lure for the kids so he can be able to capture them. It's a really good episode. And it's great to see Bartleby, a character who's been portrayed as a coward, actually stand for Sonic and is willing to get roboticized to protect them.
I am changing my plea to guilty.
But the side plot of the kids trying to blow up a Ruby mine does bring the episode down though. It didn't ruin the episode, but damn, can't just have a good episode. But I'll take it over the last few episodes. Eggman creates a new AI robot called Art, and is able to learn and improve itself on the battlefield. He sends the machine out to capture the kids, but the kids are able to convince the machine that Eggman's evil. It's a pretty decent episode, the concept was done well, and the episode was engaging, all I can ask for at this point. Eggman discovers a new place in Mobius called the Emerald Peninsula. Sonia uses the pendant to help stop Eggman from taking over the area, but the pendant has a side effect that starts to make Sonia invisible. They now have to find a way to reverse their curse before it's too late. Another pretty good episode. The episode actually has some decent stake and was pretty fun to watch. We only have one more episode left and I hope to see how decent this one is. Sonic and Max start playing a video game to help them get better at flying ships, but they start getting addicted to it. Eggman uses this to his advantage and sucks them to the game where if they die in real life.
People will play it in real life. If you die in the game, you die in real life, Shadow the Hedgehog.
How did you know Sword Art Online was my favorite anime?
Basically just an SAO plot. It's not bad at all and was pretty enjoyable, but that's mostly because this was the last episode, but it could have been much worse. After watching this show, I know why people don't talk about it a lot. This shit fucking sucked. It's not the worst thing I ever watched, it's just really boring and forgettable, which made watching the show a goddamn chore. I'm sorry, Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog. Even though you had your moments, I have much more fun memories from that show compared to this. I might have been a bit harsh to you. There were a few episodes that were good, but rarely were they ever that good for you to go out of your way to watch. The only great episode I can think of is Six of the Crowd. Now, I am being hyperbolic about it because at the end of the day, the show is serviceable. But goddamn, this shit was just so boring. The only good thing that came from this was the intro that was really good. This OVA is technically the first Sonic movie I ever got before the Paramount movies came out. It was made in 1996 and was made by Pirate, the same studio that made the Naruto and Bleach anime. The movie consists of 2 different episodes that combine together to make a full movie. The movie itself is actually pretty good. It definitely has many flaws, but has a lot of good in it. The movie starts off with Sonic hanging at the beach with Tails, who's being annoying little shit. Yeah, some of these voices can be very grating. Tails is the worst of the bunch, but also this dumb owl who tells him to meet up with the president is also definitely up there. Sonic goes to meet the president, only to discover that Eggman has taken the president and his daughter as hostages so he can lure Sonic in to talk. Eggman explains that he wanted to get Sonic's attention so he lost control of the city, and the city generator is about to explode that could destroy the planet, and the only one who can stop it is Sonic. Eggman is okay in this, he's not bad at all, but he's a bit forgettable in this, and is only used to push the plot and to be a joke.
Sonic will never again be a pain in my ass!
Like I said, he's not bad, but he doesn't hold a candle against the other iteration of his character. Though the president's daughter, Sarah, is pretty annoying, but she's not too bad. She's just a stereotypical anime girl, that's really it. But it turns out she was the first human to kiss these guys.
Right, yes ma'am!
I don't know why, but it still feels less weird than Sonic 06. Sonic agrees to help and goes with Tails in the city to stop the generator. Before we go on, I want to talk about the animation and the music, which is all great. The background art is amazing and it's very reminiscent of shows like Ghost in the Shell. Like, some of the stuff feels right out of the show. It has a weird cyberpunk dystopia feeling as we get the backgrounds of the destroyed city, which we never get explained about what happened to them. But I think that's a good thing, it really helps build up a great atmosphere for this movie. The music itself is also pretty great. The music seems to be pretty much inspired by Sonic CD. It sounded like it was created by the same crew. It all comes together to give off a weird timeless feel. But back to the story. They reach the city and have a fight with Giant Metal Robotnik. Knuckles shows up with his cool cowboy hat and fights the robot with Sonic. I will admit though, this fight is pretty boring. The fight goes on for a bit too long. The set pieces themselves are pretty tame compared to what is coming later on. It is honestly the worst part of the movie, but it's not really a bad thing, just a long and boring fight. But let's get into the main reason this OVA is popular, Metal Sonic. So after Sonic shuts down the generator, Metal Sonic shows up and it's that Metal Sonic has been collecting data from Sonic. And now Metal Sonic's abilities are an exact copy of Sonic, and he actually believes that he himself is Sonic. This might be the best version of Metal Sonic, and if the added detail that Metal Sonic thinks he himself is Sonic will become a larger part of his character down the line. Eggman's main plan now is that he wants Metal Sonic to create a glacier that would activate a volcano that would then trigger the end of the world. He wants to do this so he can build his own world and marry the president's daughter.
I never thought you'd stoop that low.
Let's focus back on Metal Sonic and Sonic. The fight between the two is great and is the absolute highlight of the OVA, especially this famous line.
You might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you since I know everything you're going to do. Strange, isn't it?
It was so much more engaging than the last fight. It all comes to an end when Sonic's able to beat Metal Sonic, but when Metal Sonic falls in the volcano, Sonic goes to help him, but only for this to happen. This was a great way to end the OVA. The scene was actually pretty intense compared to all the stuff that came before in the OVA. Overall, this was a really good OVA. It definitely has its problem, it has aged a bit in some places.
Flew away without saying anything.
But the Metal Sonic stuff makes up for it. I greatly recommend watching it. It's only 55 minutes long and it's available on YouTube for free. But now let's go on to the final show for the video. Sonic X was an anime made in 2000 and it's the longest show to date of having 78 22-minute episodes. With it being the longest show yet, I was hoping that the show would be decent at best. I really needed a good show after the last one. I watched the whole series and it's by far the best Sonic TV show I've seen yet. It was really fucking good. The animation is great, the voice acting was also pretty good, and the show wasn't afraid to get dark at times, especially in the 3rd season. It all came together to make a great show. It's also nice to finally see the modern character designs and personality. I was starting to get really tired of Sonic's 90s personality. Before we get into it, I do want to say I am watching the sub version of the show, as the 4Kids dubs, censors, and removes a lot of things, so I decided to watch the show in its original way. But it does suck I won't get to hear the 4Kids cast, get to listen to the Gotta Go Fast song, and won't get to hear great lines like this.
I pretended I was a bar of soap and gave them all the slip.
Let's stop delaying things and get into the show. The episode starts with Sonic attacking Eggman's base to say Cream has been captured by him, but Eggman's machine fucks up and sends them to the real world. The rest of the episode is spent on Sonic running from the police, more noticeably a guy named Sam Speed, who gets in his race car and chases him. This was a really good episode, not much happens in the episode besides Sonic running around, but it was still fun. The episode comes to an end when Sonic falls into a pool and is saved by Chris. I won't get into Chris too much now, but all you need to know is that he's basically the secondary main character, and the fandom does not like him at all, for reasons we'll get to later. But still, it was pretty good. It sets everything up for the show and has pretty good pacing. We'll see if they can keep this up for the next episode. The next day, Sonic befriends Chris for saving him. Chris himself at this point is just bland. He's mostly there to be a self-insert for young boys. as he doesn't have much of a personality, but it does leave him being just bland and forgettable. His background isn't though. He's the kid of a movie star and a businessman, where he also lives in the mansion of his main butler. This is where all the characters hang out for the first 2 seasons, but for now, Chris attempts to hide Sonic from everybody. But back to the plot. Sonic learns that Cream's being held in a tube by a government agency to research her. Sonic goes in to rescue her, but while he's rescuing her, he gets help from Tails. This was a pretty good episode. I love how they are slowly introducing the characters into the show. It allows us to get some time alone with some of these characters before they all come together, where they have to fight for screen time. I will say the most shocking thing I've seen yet was Sonic cussing.
Shit!
This is probably the only time Sonic cusses like this in his existence, well, maybe besides this.
It might even open the gates of hell!
It was really surprising. It makes watching the sub worth it though. But let's get on to the next one. Eggman finally makes the move from his island and tries to take over the city. I really love the fact that Eggman had to go find a higher city worker every time he confronts them. That's pretty funny. While all this is happening, Chris and Tails try to keep everything under control as Sonic's running around the world, not knowing what is happening. Also, Knuckles and Amy shows up and they try to help as well, but they all are unable to stop Eggman. This is the last episode to reveal all the main characters, and like I said before, I really like how the characters were revealed in this. There is still one more character to be revealed, but we'll get to her when she shows up. This all helps make the pacing episodes really good, as each episode reveals something or it changes the nature of the show, which helps make the show really engaging. It all comes to an end when Sonic finds out about what's happening and quickly defeats Eggman. This was a pretty good episode. I have heard the first season wasn't that good, but honestly these episodes have been really great. I do hope its quality remains throughout the season and not completely fall apart, but let's continue on to the next one. A Chaos Emerald is found at the construction site, and both Sonic and Eggman want the Chaos Emerald. Eggman wants them for his own reason, and Sonic wants them because if they get all the Chaos Emeralds, they can use them to teleport everyone back to their own world. Eggman almost gets it till Chris gets it back from him and gets saved by Sonic as he falls. This was another fun episode. I also really like the goal for this season, it being a rush to get all the Chaos Emeralds before Eggman gets them. It's simple but pretty effective since it allows times for the characters to grow and shine. Since the plot is not too overbearing, let's go on to the next one. This is probably the first weak episode yet, but that's mostly because of the reused plot idea. Knuckles is once again tricked by Eggman to help him by finding Sonic for the Chaos Emerald. While this is happening, Chris, Tails, and Amy go to the place where they believe the Chaos Emerald is located. This does lead to probably one of the funniest moments in the show. And therefore I get to see a little girl get punted in a Sonic show. They reach the area only to discover that it was a trap and get captured by Eggman. Sonic now has to get for Knuckles to save them. Eventually Knuckles learns that Eggman tricked him again and quickly beats his ass. I will say I do like that the show does acknowledge how repetitive this plot is.
静かに余生を送りたいんじゃなかったのか。なわけないだろ。ってことは俺は。そういうこと。
Even though this episode's plot is a bit tired, this was still a pretty fun episode. I just hope they will stop doing this plot over and over in the future. Eggman's new plan to take over the world is to make the world admire him, and he starts by sending a robot to teach Chris's class to love him. But that robot just turns out to be a good teacher. Everything's all good till Eggman shows up pissed and forces the robot to make the kids admire him. Chris's new teacher, Stuart, who is basically an undercover teacher to watch over Chris, tries to find a way to expose the robot. Stuart doesn't do that much at all in the series. He appears a lot in the show, but his own plot amounts to nothing. But he can be funny at times. I really like his interaction with the cop, which is great.
そんなもの食べてないで。ポリスから物を取るとは逮捕だ。
While this is happening, Chris's parents are coming back home to see Chris, but Sonic has to help him deal with Eggman so he can see his parents. While this was a bit of a filler episode, it was really fun. I didn't expect the final series as funny as it is. It's a genuine surprise. Let's go on to the next one. Chris's maid Ella and server Tanika, who are pretty fun characters, start to set up the house for a housewarming party. At the same time, Cream starts to feel homesick, which leads to Sonic looking for some flowers for her. But also, Chris tries to hide everyone, especially Cream who wants to help everyone set up the party. This was a pretty fun episode, especially when Stuart comes to the house to plant a bug in the house. Cream overhears Chris's mom having to leave for work, which is actually quite depressing to watch.
ママらしいこと一つもしてあげられなくてごめんなさい。こんなママをどうか許してね。
This leads to Cream getting upset with Chris when Chris gets upset as mom left. It all ends with Sonic giving Cream the flowers she wanted and Chris make up for her after their fight. It was a pretty nice episode. I was honestly surprised at how the show doesn't pull any punches. I knew that things will get much darker as we get farther in, but I'm pretty happy with the show doing stuff like this. Especially with how lighthearted the last few shows were. I'm also very happy with how good the show has been. I really do hope the rest of the season can keep this quality. Eggman sends up a robot in the sky to suck in all the satellites to collect robot parts for his army. When we learn about this, Tails goes into his Tornado X to stop him but fails and falls back to Earth. Chris's grandfather, who has been in the show for a while but hasn't done that much yet, helps Tails use the Chaos Emerald to power up the plane, so that they have a chance of beating it. This leads to Tails going back into space and defeating the robot. This was a pretty boring episode. I really don't like these type of episodes where they are just long fights that go on for the whole episode. At least the character's not doing much, but I'll take this compared to what I've been watching. We'll just move on to the next one. Sonic and friends go to the beach to hang out. Amy has a fantasy of dating Sonic, you know, the usuals, but Eggman shows up and starts shit. Sonic and Eggman fight, but this leads to Eggman breaking a bracelet that Amy made that she wanted to get to Sonic, which leads to her getting pissed and fucking destroying Eggman. At the end of it, Amy is upset about the bracelet breaking, but Sonic finds it and fixes the bracelet and keeps it for himself. It was a sweet episode, even though it was another filler episode, it was still pretty fun. But to mention the elephant in the room, this show basically gave so much goddamn ammo for Sonic any shippers. It's insane of how much this stuff was in the show. I will go more into this later, but just to let you know that this isn't the last time that this stuff will show up. Tails finds the second Chaos Emerald in the baseball field, but Eggman quickly takes it from him and forces Sonic and friends to a baseball game. Whoever wins the game will get the emerald. This is a pretty boring episode and I don't have too much else to say about it. I don't care for sports that much, so I didn't really care for this episode, but I'll go over Eggman's goons. All of them are comic relief, but they're all pretty good. Deco and Boku don't do too much to the lair, but they are much tamer versions of Scratch and Grounder. And Boku is a bratty robot who gives Sonic all these messages from Eggman that all keep blowing up. I really like Boku, he was surprisingly funny to watch at times. But back to the episode. Sonic wins the game, but Eggman still takes the emerald, so the show was basically for nothing. This is the weakest episode yet. I really do hope these episodes start to pick up more. Rouge is introduced in this episode and she does her usual stuff from the games. I do like her banner of Topaz, a government agent has partnered with her.
ハードなプレイがお好みなの？何を笑っている？
The basic plot is that the government picks Rouge up and tasks her with breaking into Eggman's base for intel. Rouge agrees to help, but she's really in it for the Chaos Emerald. The episode's pretty good. Really though, the best part is the arguments between Rouge and Topaz.
してもセンス最悪。あなたの趣味。どういう意味？きっとあなたが思ってる通り。スイッチを押しましょうか？もうやめてくれないか。
Besides that, the episode isn't too interesting. This is the start of a two-part about the government attacking Eggman's base. The military launches an attack against Eggman to stop him for good. While the military attacks him, Rouge leads the team into the base to put a bomb on a power generator. But while all this shit is happening, Tails, Chris, and Francis find the third Chaos Emerald, only to be attacked by Eggman. This was a pretty good episode. I will say that the Chaos Emerald subplot is pretty jarring against the giant military fight, but doesn't hurt the episode. Let's go on to the next part. Sonic quickly saves Tails and beats Eggman so they can collect the third Chaos Emerald. Then Sonic chases Eggman back to his base so he can fight him. While all of this is happening, Rouge is able to plant the bomb in the generator, but they end up getting locked inside the same room, but Knuckles shows up to help Rouge. During the fight between Sonic and Eggman, Sonic is able to grab the second emerald and use the two emeralds to power himself up so he can beat Eggman and destroy his base. This was a really good two-parter. I was very surprised that Eggman's base was destroyed this quickly into the show. Also due to this, Eggman spends the rest of the show hiding. This is another thing I like about the show. The show is not afraid to change things up, which keeps you on your toes of what could happen next. But yeah, just a really good episode. This might be the best episode yet. It's such a simple but effective plot. After Sonic destroys Eggman's base, the President A wants Sonic to shake hands with the President to help boost his rating. Sonic refuses to show up. Instead, he helps Chris's wheelchair-bound friend Helen get to an island she wants to go to. As Sonic does this, the military is sent to capture him so they can bring him to the party. This was a really good episode. It really shows how great of a character Sonic is. Not caring about parties for him, but helping a girl fulfill her dreams, which really makes the ending hit.
どうした？あの子がおかわりをあんなにはしゃいで。まあまあ。私たち危ないからっていつも家の中に。
God damn, the show is really good at making emotional scenes. I do love how it ends though, with Sonic showing up to the party, but due to the President A serving wine to keep the reporters happy, they end up being too drunk and don't take pictures of Sonic. It was overall a great episode, probably one of the best ones out of the series. Hope they can keep this up going forward. The episode started with Sonic and friends trying to find peace from all the attention they are getting after their victory against Eggman, which was fun to watch, but little did I know this was the last party episode I was gonna like. The episode shows Eggman using his new egg fort to attack the city, but Sonic quickly stops it and sinks that bitch back into the sea. This was a pretty boring episode. Besides the beginning, the rest was just dull to watch. I think that the show's weakness is that when they're low on ideas, they'll make these drawn out fight episodes. It is definitely my least favorite part of the show, but I'll still take long dull fight episodes over annoying as fuck episodes. Before the main plot, Chris's grandfather gives Sonic Crew a passport and social security number. It's so weird seeing Sonic explain what the fuck a passport and social security number is, but it's pretty funny. The main plot is about the team vacationing where they find the fourth Chaos Emerald, but they are interrupted by Eggman again and have to fight him. The episode was a bit boring at times, but it was fine, and it had a few funny moments, including the moment where they tell kids not to do what they were doing, so no dumb fucking kid drowned himself because of Sonic. It's a Knuckles focused episode. Knuckles meets a guy named Hawk who tells him where to find a Chaos Emerald. He and Hawk attempt to find it, but have to team up to beat Eggman's robot that's in the way. It was a pretty decent episode, especially for a Knuckles focused one. I didn't care too much for Hawk. He didn't show up at all after this, which makes it feel like a waste. He wasn't that interesting as well. Overall though, this episode was nothing too interesting, but it was still pretty fun. After Eggman and Sonic have a fight in the sky, everyone crash lands in Africa. While Tails and Chris attempts to fix the plane, they learn that a company is willing to build a dam that will take water away from the animals. While this is happening, Eggman and Sonic continue to fight with Eggman using his gorilla robot to fight Sonic. This was a pretty good episode. The best part was when we get to see Tails' backstory, which we rarely get to see, and it's pretty good. Everything else was also pretty good. Both plots came together really well and were paced pretty well as well. But on to the next one. Sonic and friends hang out with Chris's mom at her movie set. While they are filming, ghosts start to show up and screw shit up. They all go to investigate what's happening, which leads to Sonic getting trapped in the ghost world and Amy getting possessed, which is a pretty creepy scene. It's now up to Chris to figure out a way to stop King Boom Boom, the ghost from Sonic Adventure 2, and save everyone. This was a pretty good horror episode. I love horror films, so it was great to see episodes able to be pretty creepy, which was great for me. But this show was definitely traumatizing for some poor kids. The poor bastards. Chris takes Sonic and friends on a cruise but drives Sonic crazy as he's unable to run at all on the boat. He comes up with many ways to get off the boat where they all fail. I know some people are upset of this, which is weird. It makes sense for Sonic to be upset about this. Sonic's always running around, so being forced not to do that would absolutely be hell for him, especially with being afraid of water. But anyways, Eggman shows up at the fight, which is Sonic going after him, quickly beating his ass. I enjoy this one a lot. Most of the jokes land, especially the fourth wall jokes, which they make a lot of.
よーし、なんで2週間もかかっちゃったんだよ。それは俺たちをのけ者にして楽しんでるってことだい。
ふっざけとるがね、この番組がオイラで持ってるってもといエッグマン様で持ってるってことを忘れてますよね。
This season has been pretty good, which was surprising since I'm always being a negative little fuck. It's great to be the positive one for a change. Sam wants a rematch with Sonic and the President's aide wants in on it so he can help the President's rating, but Sonic pulls it off. The President's aide actually asks Eggman to bring Sonic's ass to the race, which ends up blowing up in his face.
私がエッグマンと交渉していたのがバレた。大統領になる夢が。
This was a pretty average racing episode. You literally do this plot so many times in these shows. The only thing I remember is what happened to Boku. Poor bastard. Sonic and friends go on vacation again. I don't know why they keep repeating this idea. These guys have had like 6 different vacations. But back to the plot. Cheese falls and goes down a stream, and when they go look for him, they find a Chow garden. But they have to save the garden from Eggman, as his robot friend is dirty the water, which will force the Chows to leave. Even though this is once again a filler episode, it was still decent. I do hope we can start getting back to the plot after this though. Chris's dad buys the 6th Chaos Emerald as a present for his wife, but with how many Chaos Emeralds there are, they all start to cause a rush of energy, which leaves the machines messing up. But the biggest problem is that this also attracts Eggman and Rouge. Eggman in the end though takes the emerald and runs away. This was pretty dull for a Chaos Emerald story, but I did love all the movie references though. But it wasn't enough to save the episode for me, it was just all over the place and leaves a lot to be desired. After another Eggman fight, Sonic has a computer chip stuck in his ear, which causes him to be unable to stop running. Everyone tries to find a way to stop him, but each attempt to stop him fails. But when Eggman sends out another robot to attack them, he stops him from hurting Amy, which leads to the chip getting unstuck. This is probably one of my favorite episodes. It is an idea that's really good and it's pretty original. This is an idea that I don't think they ever did. It is usually about Sonic losing his speed, not being able to stop. This is the last filler episode for the season, and it was a great one to go out on. Let's start finishing the season off. As they all start getting closer to having all the emeralds, Chris starts to get upset about Sonic leaving. This leads him teaming up with Knuckles, who's desperate to go home to his Master Emerald, and they take all the 4 Chaos Emeralds to Eggman so that they can team up and collect the rest of the emeralds. While this is happening, Eggman's robot Lucky gets fucking lucky and finds the last emerald in a box in a pile of trash. A bit anticlimactic, but once Eggman learns about this, he betrays Chris and Knuckles. He drops Knuckles out of the ship and kidnaps Chris. This was a decent episode. It definitely felt a bit all over the place, but everything does come together in the end. We'll see if the last episode in the season can stick the landing. After everyone learns what happens to Chris, Sonic goes to fight Eggman in his giant mech powered by all the Chaos Emeralds. After a big fight, Sonic's about to lose, but Chris breaks out and grabs all the Chaos Emeralds and jumps to Sonic. Sonic catches him and then uses all the Chaos Emeralds to turn Super and completely fuck Eggman up. This was an amazing finale, and Sonic turning into Super Sonic was well earned, helped make the finale feel grand. It all ends with Sonic staying with Chris and not returning to his world, but it does lead to places from Sonic's world showing up in the real world, including Big the Cat and the Master Emerald. This stuff does lead into the next season, but before we go on, I do want to talk about my overall feelings for Season 1. I was really surprised about how good Season 1 was. It definitely had its low moments, but the lowest moments in the show were just that some episodes were boring, in which I feel like every season is going to have this problem. I will say I think this season was consistently good compared to the other two. It definitely doesn't have the best moments or episodes, but I feel like the quality of each episode was consistently good across the season. I will go more into the issues of the other season when we get to them, but for now let's just jump to Season 2. One more thing though before we go. The first half of Season 2 focused on adapting both the adventure games, so I won't be going deep into the main plots of these arcs. I will focus on what's different between the show and the game though. Now it's done, let's get started with Season 2. This episode focused on the beginning of the game to the first Eggman fight. There isn't too much that is there besides that big Dutch joint in the game that has a few lines. Don't ever change big. I do want to say I do like how they transitioned everyone to where they were at the start of the game. It was surprisingly natural with the changes. There isn't too much to say for this, so let's go on to the next one. This episode mostly focused on the Knuckles story and the shows the beginning of Amy's story till the part she gets captured. They don't change anything too notable in this. I guess the only thing to bring up is that we do get to see Tikal here and she was pretty well portrayed, but she doesn't have that much of a presence in this compared to the game. Mostly due to the fact that she had a much bigger presence in the game due to her being a spirit that will give you hints to the game when you got lost, but they can't really do that here. But besides that, there's not much else to say here, so let's go on to the next one. This episode mostly covers Amy's story and all the other story that takes place on the air carrier till Sonic and Tails shows up. I don't think that there was anything changed at all, so I'll cover my initial feelings on these episodes. I didn't really care for the episodes that much. I will go more into it when we finish Sonic Adventure 1, but the biggest problem is that these stories felt rushed and a bit all over the place. The biggest example of this is Gamma's story, but we'll go over that once we get to his episode. But for now, we'll just continue on to the next one. This episode focused on the fight on the egg carrier and covers the end of Tails' story. I really didn't like how they handled Tails' part. It's not bad, but just doesn't feel as fulfilling as the original ending from the game. Mostly because Tails already believes in himself and doesn't rely on Sonic in the show. Shit, he helped Sonic a lot on his own in the first season. It just leads to what should feel like an emotional moment feel unwarranted. But let's go on to the next episode, which is the biggest offense in the show yet. This episode focused on the end of Sonic's story and the rest of Gamma's story. They completely butcher Gamma's story in this. Due to how scattered the episodes all are, Gamma's story was barely given the right amount of attention. I also didn't like how anticlimactic the fight between Gamma and his comrades were. I also didn't feel like they built up the fight between Gamma and his rival, and the ending doesn't hold a candle compared to the original, which I'll just show you.
Gamma, mission終了.
It was honestly pretty disappointing, so I was hoping that they would do the story justice. It's a shame, but let's cover the last Sonic Adventure 1 episode. This episode covers the finale of the game with Sonic turning super and beating up Perfect Chaos. It was okay. I'm honestly surprised how good this arc was. The biggest problem is that due to how the story was laid out, led to the story not hitting the highs it needed to. It's not a bad adaptation, it just felt like they couldn't match the same emotional high as the original game did. This honestly makes me realize how good the writing of the original game was. Even though the game is dated, they did a much better job making emotional scenes in the anime. Even if the delivery in those games were pretty shit.
I wonder what happened to Sonic.
Which sucks because I know this anime can make great emotional scenes. I also want to say that Chris felt really useless in this. He just hangs out big and doesn't do much of anything in this arc. But now this is all done with, it's time to move on to the next arc, Sonic Adventure 2. This episode mostly focused on Sonic helping the city rebuild after the fight of Chaos, while the Shadow Mystery is more of a subplot in this episode, which is great. The original game kind of forgets the city's completely destroyed, with Tails saying,
"All's well that ends well, right?"
So it was nice to see the anime show Sonic helping the city out. Eggman's plot just consists of him learning about Shadow and finding him. I just want to say the pacing is so much better than Sonic Adventures 1 arc, which I hope they will stay consistent going forward. This episode focused on Sonic getting chased by the police for Shadow's crime. Sonic and Shadow both have a fight, but Shadow escapes and Sonic is arrested and taken to Prison Island. The portrayal of Shadow is very faithful to the original, if anything just more cruel than the original game, which we'll get to later on. Also, Rouge joins Eggman as well. While I do find this arc better than the last one, it's still not that good and does feel a bit generic at times. It just doesn't have anything against the original, or even the movie, but it's still fun to watch. But let's go on to the next one. Sonic's friends go to the prison island to rescue Sonic. And while all this is happening, Rouge goes to steal more Chaos Emeralds from the island. This all leads to Sonic and Shadow meeting, but they have to quickly leave before the island blows up. I will say, Shadow's more of an asshole in this, and was willing to let Rouge die when she gets locked in the safe. He saves her in the end, but I prefer the way the game did ignore. The episode though was pretty good. I love how they paced both the hero and dark story though. I also think that Chris is more integrated this time. He helps Sonic and friends throughout the whole arc, and even when he gets kidnapped by Shadow in this episode, he'll become a major part of the story later on. Let's see if they can keep this up though. This episode just covers Eggman blowing up the moon and Sonic and friends getting the rocket ship from the pyramid. This is the weakest episode of the bunch. But that's mostly due to the fact that this stuff is mostly meant for gameplay, so a lot of this stuff doesn't translate well into the show. It's probably why they just skipped this part in the movie. While this episode was though, I hope that the show can bounce back. This episode consists of most of the Coney arc moments till Jiro takes over and sent the ship crashing down there. I will say that the show did not pull any punches, and it's probably the only piece of Sonic Adventure 2 media that actually confirms that Jiro was killed by a firing squad. God damn. They also go over Maria's story, which isn't bad. I just wish we had more scenes of Maria before she died. I do like how we get to see what happens to the guy who shot her. He completely feels guilty for what he did and wants to redeem himself by helping Chris's family. It was a nice touch. The arc has been pretty decent and I hope I can finish it strong. This episode covers the ending of Sonic Adventure 2 and the fight of the Wild Lizard. This was a great ending. I love how they actually have Chris bring Shadow's memory back. The scene was incredibly good and it's probably the best version of this scene.
自分勝手でバカな人間ばかりかもしれない。でもみんな生きてるんだよ。一生懸命生きて頑張っていつかみんなでもっと幸せになろうってその未来を奪わないでお願いみんなにチャンスを与えてあげて。
This was genuinely great. This is also probably the best scene of Chris in the entire show. I wish we could have more scenes like this. The fight in space is also pretty cool. They even used a Live and Learn song, which apparently wasn't used in the English dub, which just feels wrong to know about. And in the same way in the game with Shadow sacrificing himself, but for some reason the line was different at the end.
Adios, Shadow the Hedgehog.
For some reason, it just doesn't feel as impactful as the original. Sayonara just sounds right compared to fucking Adios. But still, this was a pretty good adaptation. I still think the movie was better, but there were scenes that I felt were done better than the original game and the movie. This does mark the end of the adaptations. They do adapt Sonic and Battle, but it's mostly done as a subplot for the time being. I do feel that the adaptations were definitely the weakest part of the show, which I believe is probably a really hot take, but it's just the way I feel about it. I feel the show is better when it does its own thing compared when it tries to adapt other things, but let's get on to the rest of Season 2. More things begin to appear from Sonic's road. This includes the Chaotic Agency, who are tasked by Cream's mother, Vanilla, to find Cream. I really love the Chaotic crew. They were actually pretty funny, especially all the fourth wall jokes that they make. I especially like the joke where they have to learn about what's going on in the world for the DVD release of the show. They eventually find Chris's house and believe that Sonic kidnapped Cream, and they try to rescue her but fail many times. But Vanilla shows up at the house and reunites with her daughter, which was nice to see, especially how long that they've been separated. This was a really fun episode and a nice palate cleanser after all the intense stuff from the last few episodes. Hope we get to see more of these guys later on. After the events of Sonic Adventure 2, Eggman was to help the world by fixing the moon, but when the moon malfunctions and blocks the sun, Eggman creates a device to help people get light from the sun. The only problem that Sonic is upset of this is I destroyed all the device to the dismay of everyone else watching him. I really liked this story. It was really well paced and kept me guessing what was happening next, but let's go on to the next episode. Chris is able to find Sonic and that's why he's trying Eggman's tech, and is a Sonic explanation.
動かさないって動いてるじゃないか。何？だいたい地球は回ってるんだぜ。それに合わせて月も動かなくちゃ、ああいう風になるはずないじゃん。
Which I fucking call right before it got revealed. Another thing is that Eggman's plan to take over the world with those machines that are hypnotizing people into adoring Eggman. This was a great end to the two-part with a clever twist. The episode also ends with Eggman getting arrested, which is pretty surprising. I didn't expect that. These episodes have been great. I hope they can keep this quality up for the rest of the season. Boku sets a morale to free Eggman from prison, but leads to a fight between Sonic and Bakun. But because of this, it leads to Amy getting stood up by Sonic for her day and she gets pissed. Sonic also stood up Sam Speed for their race. This leads to both Sam and Amy bonding over it. This was a pretty nice episode. This will be the start of the Sonic battle arc. It does stay in the background for a while, but it will come back to focus in a few episodes. The story ends with Sonic meeting up with them and goes racing to Sam Speed and abandoning Amy.
待たせて悪かったな。
But more importantly, after the big fight, Emerald lands in Chris's backyard where Cream meets him and befriends him. While I did find this episode a bit boring at times, they have a lot of nice moments, but goddamn, they're giving Sonic and Amy fans so much ammo in this show, it's fucking insane. Due to all of Sonic's achievements, he becomes adored by the public to the point that everyone tries to act like him and refuses to work and sleep all day. This leads to a lot of electronics being repaired. They are all sent to Eggman and repairs them in prison, but he also plants chips into them so they would turn evil and attack people. Eggman breaks out of prison, and this leads to him using the electronics to take over the world. Even though this was a simple plot, it was executed greatly. It was really good. I've been really happy with how good the show has been. We're about halfway through the show and there hasn't been truly a bad episode. I hope we can continue this trend of good episodes for the rest of the show. I think I fucking spoke too soon. This is probably the worst episode in the entire series, but even then still not that bad. It basically follows Stuart trying to hunt down Eggman after he escapes prison, while also trying to take care of all the kids who came with him. This was just too stupid. Not only was the story bland, but also felt very childish. I'm not even trying to say having an episode be childish is bad, but for this episode in particular, it just felt very out of place. It was pretty disappointing. I hope it's just a bump in the road and the rest of the series is better than this. A tournament is held for who can prove that they are the strongest, and whoever wins will get the Chaos Emerald. This was a fun episode. The fighting was really good of how impactful and quick the fights were. There was a lot of fights and they went by fast, and all of them were fun to watch. This episode is also where Emerald becomes more of a main focus. As Wily was helping Sonic in the last few episodes, he scanned and copied Sonic moves to fight people. This isn't coming to play till the next episode, but I didn't want to mention beforehand. But still, this was a pretty nice time. Hope they end this two-parter well. After all the fights, it's Emerald who wins the tournament, but the Chaos Emerald causes him to go haywire and attack everyone. Sonic and Crew tries to stop him, but due to Emerald's copying abilities, he's able to beat everyone who tries to stop him. But Cream and Cheese are the only ones who can fight him due to them changing their moves between the two, since Emerald can only scan one person at a time. Besides this, mean Cream has to kill her friend, which leads to a pretty heartbreaking scene. I don't know if this is similar to the game or not, but even then if it turns out it wasn't that faithful, it was still a pretty good mini arc. I will say I wasn't expecting Emerald to die, it was honestly pretty shocking, but overall this was a great time. There is one more two-part before we start getting to the finale, so I hope that they are good as this one was. This episode is basically just a long and drawn out fight over the ocean between Sonic and Eggman. Eggman wants to find the continent of Malaysia, as if he hits the belly point of it, it will lead to the destruction of the world. This was really fucking boring. I do know this was inspired by an anime, I'm not sure which one, but even knowing that doesn't make this episode any better. I just hate episodes where it's just one long fight. I just find this kind of stories really boring. The episode ends with Sonic winning, but Eggman goes down to the volcano that leads to Malaysia. I do hope the second part is better, but I have a feeling that it's probably not. Sonic travels into a volcano after Eggman where they all find themselves in Malaysia. Eggman attempts to execute his plan, but it fails, leading to the whole group getting attacked by what I believe are Godzilla-inspired monsters, which I did think was pretty cool. But also the underground world starts to fall apart, so now everyone needs to quickly escape Malaysia before it all collapses. I do want to say that Boku and Doku both turn good and join Chris in this episode, but this chain literally only lasts for like 4 episodes. They go back to working Eggman later on. Kind of a waste of an idea, but to be fair, these guys aren't really that compelling anyway, so I can care less if they're good or bad. This episode was okay. I didn't like it too much, but mostly because I couldn't get into the story that much. It felt a bit all over over the place. But it's definitely better than the last one, which is all I can ask for. Now it's finally time to get into the finale of Season 2. The government learns that if Sonic continues to stay in their world, time will start to slow down to a halt and freeze. Most of the episode focuses on Chris's reaction to hearing this, in which he's not taking it well at all. He gets upset and thinks Eggman is the actual reason behind this, but only for Eggman to realize he didn't do this and basically makes fun of Chris.
人を頼りにしたり、人のせいにしたり、そんなこといつまでもできると思ったら大間違いじゃ。聞けばソニックといたかっただけだという。お前はそれで満足じゃろう。しかし、そんなことだけにこだわっておっては、お前はいつまで経ってもちっぽけなお前のまんまじゃ。それがわからんのか。
This was a great start to the finale. I value character moments a lot in this show, and this episode was filled with them. I also definitely understood what was going on with Chris. I won't go into it just yet, but let's just say it's an understandable crash out. The episode starts with Gunna having a freak out and tipping over for the president and goes all out to finally kill Eggman for good. Sonic fights back and stops him pretty quickly, and this leads to Gunna getting shut down. The rest of the episode focuses on their final goodbye between everyone, as they all go for the portal. Chris is unable to say anything to them as they leave, but right when Sonic's about to leave, he does this. Holy shit, this singular moment is what made people think that Chris was a horrible character. I completely disagree with this notion that he's a bad character for this, but I'll go deeper into it in the next episode. But for the episode itself, it was really good. I do think the beginning was a bit clunky, but the second half just done so well. Even though I know I'm going to see these guys a lot more as I do make more videos on them, it still felt pretty bittersweet to see them leave. Let's go on to the next one now though, so we can finally talk about Chris. After Chris shuts down the portal, he quickly grabs Sonic and runs into the woods. This entire episode is meant to be retrospective on Chris, and in my opinion, I think the hate for him is almost completely unjustified. To be fair, I do not think the English dub did screw up a lot of moments, but even then, the show wasn't being pretty subtle with the message. Throughout the whole show, we were shown that even though he has great parents who love him, they completely neglect him for their job, and due to this, he feels lonely and unable to connect with anybody else. But when Sonic showed up, he had gotten more friends and is more confident in himself, but now that Sonic is leaving, Chris has to come to the reality that he will have to go back to being neglected and lonely, which is why he lashed out, and don't just take my word, the show literally spells it out.
金と権力に頼らなくても、お前たちならわかるはずだ。あの子が行くところが。お前たちはあの子のそばにもっといてやるべきだったんだ。あの子の親は世界中にお前たち2人しかおらんのじゃぞ。
Also, the most important point is that this kid is fucking 12 years old. All of us were doing stupid shit when we were kids. How would you deal with losing your idol for the sake of the world? Most kids would do what he did. And sure, what he did was wrong, but it doesn't justify his intense hate for him. Shit, even Sonic knows this. That's why he doesn't struggle and goes with Chris without questioning anything. Sonic does tell him near the end that he isn't a coward and should underestimate himself.
何もできない弱虫だ。
俺はそうは思わないぜ。お前はあの時真夜中のプールに飛び込んで俺を助けてくれたじゃないか。俺には絶対できないぜ。
Chris understood this and realized what he did is wrong and let him go home. This was a great episode. This was a surprisingly deep writing for this kind of show, but it was nothing too crazy. But still, it was a great way to end Chris's arc. But now let's get to the last episode of the season. This episode just follows the rest of Sonic's friend dealing with Eggman since Sonic never came back. The episode goes on like this till near the end where Sonic comes back and quickly puts Eggman in his place. The episode is pretty decent, but it's mostly due to the end. We do get to see Chris when he's older attempting to rebuild a portal that will come into effect in the next season, but the most important scene is this. This scene must have set the shippers insane. I know I've been mentioning it a lot, but the reason I bring the shipper stuff up a lot is because this stuff would lead to a giant shipping war where nothing was off the table. This led to stalking, harassment, constant bitching, even worse stuff. One of the worst things that happened were actors getting harassed. I'm not joking. And it's just funny to see the original scene that would start this complete fucking nonsense. Sorry for going off topic, but yeah, this was a great finale. This was meant to be the actual series finale, but they got picked up for a third season. But if this were to be the actual series finale, it still would have been perfect for the finale. Overall, the season wasn't bad, had a lot of great episodes, but I felt like they did have a lot more weaker episodes than the first season. I feel like it's because they rely way too much on the game adaptations, because once they were done with them, I feel like the season picked up a lot. This isn't even a bad thing, it just shows how good the series is, that even at its lowest, the episodes are still pretty good. But now it's time to watch the last season of the show, which is completely different from the rest of the show. So let's get started. The episode starts off with Sonic finding a mysterious alien. They fight and this leads to Sonic losing, but he sends the Chaos Emerald into space and falls back to his world. They start the season with a bang. We don't know what's going on or even who this guy is. It was a great hook, but now let's get into the actual episode. It follows the rest of Sonic's friend meeting Cosmo, a plant girl that came from outer space, who came here to warn Sonic of the Metarex, an alien species that is stealing the life forces of planets. But she's too late as one of them shows up and steals her planet's life energy. Oh, and Chris is there. He makes the part from the last season and goes into their world, and for some reason he shrinks back to his younger self. He's about the same as before, but is much more mature and is able to handle a lot of things on his own. This all comes together to make a good opening episode. The Metarex is surprisingly intimidating and is a great opposing force for the season. I also like the change of pace from going from more slice of life episodes to more of an adventure series, but let's go on to the next one and see if they can keep this up. Everyone teams up to build a giant spaceship that can collect all the Chaos Emeralds that are in space. Sonic and Chris get to meet each other again, and we get to learn more about Cosmo. She explains what the Metarex are, and also tells them that she's the last of her species and her race was wiped out by the Metarex. I do want to mention that from now on, that the tone of the show gets pretty dreadful as we get farther throughout the series, which I think works really well and helps build how much of a threat the Metarex are. At the end of the episode, there's a fight between Sonic and one of the Metarex where they finally find a way to kill these things, a powerful cannon on the ship called the Sonic Power Cannon. This is both a blessing and a curse, because this show begins to rely on that cannon a lot, and I mean a lot. You'll see what I mean. But they finish making the ship and take off into space. This was another pretty decent episode. Pacing has been pretty good for the first 2 episodes. I hope that this pacing can stay consistent throughout the rest of the show. Overall, the season's been good, but it's time to see if the show can continue to be as good as the last 2 seasons. They visit the planet Hydro for the first Chaos Emerald. The planet has now been flooded due to its missing life force. Sonic gets captured, in which Amy goes to save him as Chris is left behind. This is the beginning of Chris's arc and dealing with the fact that he's in his younger body and everyone's treating him as an equal. It's done pretty subtly and I like it a lot. It gives something for Chris to do while all the fighting is happening. He even redeems himself in the episode as he gives Sonic covert shoots that give him an advantage against the Metarex, in which he quickly defeats it and releases the planet's core. This was a decent episode, but I did find a lot of the fighting a bit dull. I really hope that most of the episodes are not like this. Dr. Eggman shows up and tries to get the emerald, but also Rouge snucks onto his ship and blackmails Bulka into helping her, as she stole his locket that has a picture of Cream. This is a nice setup, but the execution sucks. It's literally just that Eggman tricks Knuckles into helping him plot. It's pretty fucking redundant at this point, but the episode did have one good thing, and it's this clip. It's pretty good, but yeah, I do hope this doesn't start a trend of dull episode. The team visited planet Breezy, which has been frozen over. We went there to find the second Chaos Emerald. They have a big fight with the Metarex and they beat him with a cannon. Rouge comes and steals the emerald from them, only to learn that it's a fake. This was a pretty dull episode. The only interesting part is the idea of the Metarex creating fake Chaos Emeralds using power sources. Besides that, this is just boring. Let's go on to the next one. After another fight with the Metarex, Sonic falls down to a jungle planet. The girls go look for Sonic as they have to deal with a weak Metarex that keeps trying to capture them. They eventually find it and beat the Metarex and collect the second Chaos Emerald. This was another dull and repetitive episode, but we did get some screen time with Cosmo. And the episode was more comical than the rest, which was nice. I'm really getting tired of how repetitive this episode has been. I do hope things start to get more interesting soon. The Chaotic team goes into space as they want to get Chris more close and Vanilla wants them to check up on Cream. They get the Sonic ship only to get their ass kicked, but they make up with them, but then they try to kidnap Cream and take her back to Vanilla, mostly because Victor has a thing for MILFs. Eventually Sonic shows up after he was lost in space for most of the episode and takes Cream back. This was a fun episode. It was very refreshing to watch after so many dull episodes. Hope this is an episode a sign of things to come. This episode starts Rouge finding out about Shadow, who's in a coma with another Chaos Emerald powering his incubator. Eggman finds Rouge and allows her to stay with him. The actual episode is about Sonic looking for the third Chaos Emerald, which leads to him finding a cool Metarex called Dressid. But right when Sonic loses, Shadow awakens and quickly beats the Metarex, saves everyone, and takes the third Chaos Emerald for Eggman. This was a pretty decent episode. It's great to see Shadow again. I can't wait to see more of him. I'm hoping that the upcoming episodes are starting to be consistent in quality. The episode opens up with us learning that Shadow lost his memory and decides to stay with Eggman, but then a giant Metarex ship shows up to kill them all, and now it's up to Sonic and Eggman to team up to beat them. This was an okay episode. The fight was pretty good, and seeing Sonic and Shadow team up was great to see. There's also extra context that this is the ship to wipe out Cosmo's family, which helps add stake to the fight. I do want to bring up that I think the biggest problem this season is that the episodes are incredibly repetitive. It's basically just the same fight every episode where they beat the threat of a fucking cannon, which sucks. I wish there was more diverse ideas such as finding a Metarex on the planet every episode. But let's see if they can mix things up now. As they explore another planet for the 5th Chaos Emerald, Tails and Cosmo get separated from the team, but leaves them both bonding and getting feelings for each other. This is tragic in retrospect, but it was still a sweet episode. They eventually meet with Sonic and get the 5th Chaos Emerald. This was a great change of pace, that helps these episodes being more diverse now. I also wouldn't mind seeing the relationship between those two grow. Everyone discovers the last 2 emeralds are located in an empty Metarex space station. They all race into the place to see who can get it first. There is a scene where Rouge triggers Shadow's PTSD so she can get away. It was so out of pocket. That shit was cold. Eggman almost succeeds in getting the emeralds till Sonic shows up and gets the last 2 emeralds. But it turns out that the entire Metarex army is there with their leader Dark Oak. This was a fun episode and the ending was great. I hope that things get shake up in the next episode now, as I was getting tired of looking for the Chaos Emerald. But now it's time for the Metarex to show how threatening they can be, and I hope that they don't disappoint. After Dark Oak reveals himself and his army, he orders Fleet to destroy the space station while everyone's still inside. This leads to a mad dash between everyone to escape. While all this is happening, Sonic takes on the Metarex army, but when all Chaos Emeralds are gathered, Sonic turns super, but also Shadow shows up and turns super as well. After Sonic wipes the army of Metarex out, Sonic and Shadow have a fight in outer space for the Chaos Emerald. This was a great episode. It was able to manage all the small side plots to make them come together nicely. The big fight between Sonic and Shadow was also great. They were teasing this fight in the intro, so it was great to finally see it come to life. At the end of the fight, they lose the Chaos Emeralds once again. Oh god damn it. And now it's lost in the Metarex universe. So yeah, this is just great, because I really wanted to see them do the exact same shit again. I just hope that they can push out better episodes for the remaining of the season. After the last chaotic episode, the group gets lost in space and have to turn around and go back to Sonic. While Tails works on their ship, the chaotic team picks up that Tails and Cosmo are bonding. They didn't plan to set up things so Tails can confess to Cosmo. This was a sweet episode. A nice palate cleanser before we get into the more darker episodes, but let's just get back into the main story now. Sonic sends the ship for a wormhole so they can get to the Metarex universe, but as they are traveling through it, they get stuck and have to fight one of the Metarex bosses, in which there are 4 of them, but while they are fighting, they find a way to use them to get the ship unstuck. This was a pretty boring episode. It's fine, but just consists of one fight. Not a great start, but I'm sure things can start picking up. Sonic discovers a destroyed planet which has a Metarex base on it that's mass-producing Chaos Emeralds. The Metaboss, Narcissus, invites him to his base, in which they accept. But Cosmo sees that he will tell her what happened to the rest of her species, so she goes alone, but Chris sneaks after her. Once they get there, both of them are captured, and Chris is fucking punched. Sonic learns this and comes to rescue them, but when Narcissus threatens to kill them, Sonic gets pretty fucking pissed. Before things can get worse, Eggman shows up and frees Chris and Cosmo and puts the boss in his place. This was a great episode. The ending was also amazing, especially Dark Sonic, whom we only get to see once here, which does suck since I would love to see more of him. Shit, even Eggman was pretty badass at the end. Just a great episode. We get a Shadow Focus episode, which is probably one of the best episodes in the season. Shadow and Rouge investigate a plan for a Chaos Emerald where they meet a group of Resistance Fire. Shadow also meets a girl named Molly. Shadow gets to know how positive she is about the future, but things take a turn for the worse when it turns out the entire group sold him out, which leads to her taking a stand. After this, Shadow completely finishes off the entire army and goes off on his own, reflecting on what happened. This was a very good episode. I didn't expect for this to get so intense and dark, but it was important in showing how much of a threat the Metarex are. While I do find them personality wise a bit dull, they are still a very threatening and intimidating force. But let's get on to the next one. The group encounters an alien species called the Marmalade, and they have a Chaos Emerald but refuse to give it to them unless they take it back to their planet. Sonic goes and helps save their planet by destroying a tumor inside the planet that is hurting their planet's life force. While this is happening, Tails and Cosmo begin to bond closer together. This was a nice episode, if a bit jarring compared to the last 2 episodes, but it was needed to give a break from the serious stuff. I was pretty happy with the last few episodes, hope they can keep this up for the rest of the series. Eggman joins the Metarex and creates a fleet to beat Sonic. He almost wins by pitting them against a black hole, but Tails is able to navigate the ship and escape Eggman. This was an okay episode. The only interesting stuff was seeing Eggman working with the Metarex, but besides that, it was just boring. chaotic ship starts to break down and have to land on the Medex space station. What are the odds? Sonic sneaks in there to help them repair their ship. At the same time, Eggman is appointed as one of the Medex bosses. He helps Sonic get off the planet slowly after he starts to realize the Medex rampage could lead to the complete destruction of the universe. This was a decent episode, but it's one of the weakest chaotic episodes. I do love the Eggman side plot though. It's the beginning of him trying to help Sonic take on the Medex, which leads to many good scenes, including this one. It was a great time. So Kova, one of the Medex bosses, finds his team and fights him against Chris and Sonic, so they are left defenseless. It's now up to Knuckles to step up and stop him. This was an okay episode. As I said, I don't care too much for fight episodes, but I do like how it ends though. Sonic gets back and Cookie defeats him, which leads to this. This was a pretty intense scene, but not as tense as the last scene though, where Xiao and Rouge find a planet destroyed by plants where they beat the kids from the resistant group. They are entangled in roots with the roots growing under their skin. It leads to this scene. This info is important for the next episode, but I will say I never expected to see something so horrifying in a Sonic cartoon. But let's go on to the next episode and see what that memory card reveals. This is probably the best episode in the entire series. Xiao breaks into Sonic's ship so he can hunt down and kill Cosmo. Everything was done so well. The pacing was great, the character interactions were great, the action was amazing, and Xiao was at his most intimidating yet. Tails was also at his best, with him outwitting Xiao in every situation, doing everything he can to stop him. Right before Xiao kills her, the Medex shows up and reveals that Cosmo's a spy. She's been unwillingly given the Medex info by using a signal in her brain. This was a surprising reveal and it was revealed in a great way. Hope we have more episodes like this for the rest of the show. The team lands on an abandoned planet as they decide what to do with Cosmo. They also discover they landed on Cosmo's homeworld, where we finally discover who the Medex are. The Medex are the same species as Cosmo. After an alien invasion, the male species wanted to finish off the aliens, but was led to the planet dying and the male species turning into the Medex. This was a decent calm episode before the action-filled finale. Best part of the episode though was the Cosmo subplot. We get to see Tails convincing her to stay as they plan to work together to stop the Medex. It was a nice scene. All came together to make a pretty good episode. We do learn at the end of the episode though that Eggman is captured by the Medex and that Dark Oak has all the Chaos Emeralds. It's finally time for the finale and I'm pretty excited, so let's get into this and finally finish the show. Everyone goes to rescue Eggman, but this act starts a giant war. This was a great beginning. See everyone show up, the fight was fun, and each fight was fun to watch. Things take a turn for the worse when all the Medex bosses combine into the final nova to start the forestation of the universe, which will cover the entire universe in plants but cut off every single animal. This helps build the stakes to the highest they have ever been, which helps make the fights more intense to watch. The episode ends with Sonic going into the final mode, which is to a water planet that they are on called Aquarius. Since Sonic can't swim, Dark Oak proclaims that they won. This was a pretty good end, and I can't wait to see what happens next. After they lose Sonic, the Mako plan to use the Master Emerald to power the Sonic Power Cannon to stop Dark Oak, but Eggman reveals to Chris that if they do this, the Master Emerald will be broken and there will be no way for Chris to go back home. Believing knowing this, Chris still goes with the plan and asks Eggman not to mention this conversation to anybody. This was such a great scene, and shows how much Chris has grown, growing from a crybaby to a dependable friend. It was even great to see Eggman show his caring side to Chris. They shoot the cannon which kills off most of the final MOBA, and leads to Sonic getting out of the dreamlike nightmare with the help of Amy. The episode ends with the final MOBA turning into a giant seed. This was a great episode. I truly love all the character scenes in this episode, and I like the cool dreamlike scenes from Sonic's perspective. But now it's time to see if they can stick the landing and finish the finale off in a good way. The final MOBA that is now a giant seed is actually a giant gravitational bomb that will destroy the universe. They are able to use the Chaos Emerald to make Sonic a Shadow Super, but they're still unable to destroy it. But they make a plan to use the cannon with both Sonic and Shadow in it to destroy it, but it will lead to Sonic and Shadow dying. But Cosmo is told by her mother telepathically she's the one to save the universe. Cosmo turns into a new form and becomes a tree that mobilizes the final MOBA. She tells Tails to shoot her with the gun that will finally stop the final MOBA for good, but will kill her in the process. This leads to probably the most heartbreaking scene in anything for Sonic. It's executed amazingly.
やっぱり僕にはできないよ。 やだよコスモ。約束したじゃないか。全部終わったら一緒に僕らのをして暮らそうって。
テイルスよ、お前はあの子の志を無駄にするつもりか？
無理だよ、僕には打てない。
I'm pretty upset that English dub heavily edited down the scene, including when Tails finally shoots her.
Good luck, Cosmo. And goodbye.
This shit ruins the scene, but it just shows me that I made the right choice in watching the sub. They finish off the Dark Oak and save the universe, and Tails has one more moment with Cosmo.
Tails-san. 大好きよ。
This episode, while horribly tragic, is amazing. A grace enough for the show, but there's still one more episode to watch. This episode is mostly just the aftermath of everything and shows what happens to everyone. We are told that people think Shadow died, but we do get a shot of him putting a rose on Molly's grave. We also get another heartbreaking scene with Tails and Sonic. Sonic comes back to Tails and gives him a seed that's from Cosmo.
ソニックなら助けてくれるって信じてた。
A sad scene that was also ruined in the English dub. God, I would've been so pissed if I watched the English dub. But the main focus of the episode is Eggman giving a way for Chris to go home. He creates a machine that will send him back to his universe, but it only goes one way. It was nice to see Eggman try to fuck with Chris, but only for Chris to act mature and ignore him and goes home without saying goodbye to Sonic. It was a great way to end the series, even though it isn't the last time we'll get to see Sonic. They executed the ending so well that it made the scene so melancholic. It felt like this was the end of Sonic for good. Season 3 was a pretty good season, but it had its problems. I do feel like this sort of story would work better as a movie or even a game. While the big moments are great, they were found a pretty mediocre episode. It doesn't hurt the season, but it did make watching a bit of a chore. Overall though, I would say that Sonic X was amazing. To me, it's the best Sonic show of all time. I don't think that any show I haven't watched yet will be around the same level of quality. If you love Sonic, you need to watch this show. It's amazing. Before we end this though, I'll rank the episodes from worst to best. The titles are gonna kill me though. The ridiculously epic spy operation, emergency takeoff, X Tornado, fierce fight, Sonic baseball team, attack of the mobile purchase, 8-4, the Great Showdown at Latitude Zero, Knuckles Fist of Fury, Clash Sonic vs Knuckles, Speed Match Sonic vs Sam, Sonic vs the Underground Monster, Cross the Galactic Corridor, Mayhem the 6th Chaos Emerald, Gamma the Wanderer, the Eggman fleet appears, Amy's love went away, Battle at the Ice Palace, the beginning of the disaster, the mysterious life form Chaos, Battle on the Egg Carrier, Amy the Captain, the Water Planet Hydro, Threat from Outer Space, Please Marble Land, the Screams of Perfect Chaos, the Supersonic Hero takes the stage, the last Chaos Emerald, Aim for It, the Metarex Battleship, Dr. Eggman joins the war, Cafe Chaotic, the Beautiful Mysterious Feat Rouge, the Assault on Eggman Space Part 1, the Assault on Eggman Space Part 2, the Spaceship Blue Typhoon, Summer Vacation, Chow Observation Diary, the Girl's Jungle Trap, Memories of the Wind, Departure Egg Fort, the Space Fortress Metal Planet, Chaotic Going to Space, Amy at the Beach, A Messenger from a Meteor Shower, Burp Supersonic, The Mystery of Project Shadow, Huge Show on the Savannah, Huge Home Electronic Panic, Escape of Prison Island, Fierce Battle School Wars, Get the Chaos Emerald, The True Form of the Metarex, Sonic the Fugitive, Shadow's Rebirth, Battle in Space Colony Yard, The Ghost of the Oak Castle of King Boom Boo, Dr. Eggman's Ambition, Sonic Battle Face Off, The Chaotic Electric Shock Love Plan, The Seeker of the Underground Canyon, Clash, Sonic vs. Shadow, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Eggman's Company, The Light is Ours, Giant Free-for-All Chris House Party, Infiltrate Area 99, The Day of Deforestation, Morning of Farewell, The Chaotic Agency, Decisive Battle Dark Oak, The Black Trap, Sonic Battle Finals, Runaway Sonic Big Capture Operation, The Lost Planet, Chris's Long Journey, Above a Destroyed Planet, Maria's Wish, Everyone's Wish, Shao the Assassin, What I Can Do For You, Places Where Planets Are Born, and Chase After the Hero Sonic. Fuck me. Like I said, the show is great. Just make sure to watch the sub. I look at how many things they remove, and it's pretty insane for the amount of stuff they remove. They removed at least 2 hours of footage, so don't screw yourself and watch the sub. And there we have it. We watched all the 90s cartoons and the 2000s anime. This was a fun time. While it did have its low moments, and I mean low moments, I got to see some great stuff. There were some good shows that I would never have watched if I didn't do this. And shit, even the worst cartoons, they had a few great episodes. I'll do a quick ranking for the show, and as I said before, this is just my opinion. Starting from the worst is Sonic Underground, Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic OVA, Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic SATAM, and Sonic X. And before I go, I do want to say thank you to people that have subscribed. It means a lot to me to decide to do that, and if you're still not subscribed, you should. We still have a lot of Sonic stuff to cover, and you want to be the first to know when it comes out. But until then, I'll see you guys later.
I hate that hedgehog. I hate him. I hate him. Hate him. Hate.